Yo, 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 yo.
Yo, 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 yo.
We got Jesse
How's
Cat in the
how's my
house.
audio? Oh snap! Jesse Cat, Jordan Lee.
It's good, man. It's crisp.
How we
It's
living? It's
crisp.
crisp. Yeah, right. You sound good. Sound
Yeah,
good on
dude.
my end as well, dude. We got some gems to drop today, man.
Yeah, man. I'm
I
looking
got I
forward to it.
gotta I gotta catch you up.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. I had I'm still like flying high today off of yesterday. I had such an amazing day yesterday.
Yeah? Any
Yeah,
particular reason
because we
why or what
work.
do you do?
Yeah. So yesterday I drove out to Malibu and I met up with Arlen Moore. So he just
Nice.
moved out here. He got a full time lease, and I don't know if you know who Arlen is. He's one of my buddies I'm building a relationship with, and
Hmm.
it was just such a high frequency day. Like
Love
because
it.
we work from home, we do our thing, we coach people, we help people. Like sitting at a desk staring at these screens, like I feel like I'm constantly staring at screens. I'm staring at computer screens, my iPhone screen, TV. It's just like 80% of my day is screens when I'm
Hmm.
working, making money from my phone. So just getting out of the house and switching up the routine and being with people in person, like-minded people in real life, doing real things, brought so much energy back to me. It's like I feel like a lot of us we're looking for like clarity, we're looking for a fresh perspective, and you got to switch up your environment to do that.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, man. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a very similar conversation with a friend of mine recently where it's so easy to just kind of isolate yourself a little bit, because you get so locked into what you're doing and everything's online and you feel like you're connected to people through socials, for example. But it's just that it's that human connection, man. I mean, I remember I went to like kind of a mastermind back in August in Bali, and it was just the energy there, man, just from everybody in the same room chatting about the same things. It was the exact same as having a big Zoom call, right? But everyone's just like bouncing ideas. The energy is just completely different, man. So I think we need more of that. You know what I mean? Stay
Yes.
connected and actually get the
Yeah.
perspective and the clarity that we really need. Yeah,
Facts.
yeah, yeah.
I really believe that there's going to be a shift to in-person experiences as being like more highly valued
Yeah,
because everything
yeah.
has shifted so rapidly virtually, and it's now becoming normalized to build relationships and network virtually. I think people are doing a better job of putting out their authentic selves on their social media platforms because their skills are getting better in
Hmm.
that regard. So we're becoming normalized, and this whole digital world is becoming normalized, and we're comfortable with that. But because of that, we are going to be isolating ourselves, and we're going to have this need for that I think the actual in-person experience, let's say like a seminar, masterminds, let's say a potential jujitsu
Mm.
seminar in person, that's going to be so valued because there's novelty there. There's rarity there. Like how often are you going to get together with a group of badass individuals and learn how to defend yourself in a
Yeah,
beautiful location when you're normally
yeah.
just like scrolling on social media or, doing work on your laptop or watching Netflix with your loved one.
Exactly, man.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, of course, masterminds are a thing already, but it's going to be
Yeah.
like you said, it's going to be needed. You know what I mean? For that,
Yeah.
it's yeah, like no, it's almost like novelty, which is crazy to say, even because it's like the human experience, right? Is to spend some time in person, and it's almost becoming a novelty, which is interesting. So definitely something I'm thinking
Yeah.
about as well. As this kind of year progresses, I'm going to see, okay, how could we include something in person where you get people together, a small group of people even, and just have that in person experience, right? I've seen a couple of people use that, and it's just yeah, it's a game. It's been a game changer, big game changer for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely this pull that I'm feeling now. Here we are, it's the start of 2024. I feel a pull of creative energy flowing back into LA. Like it's happening.
Nice.
There's a
Mm,
pull coming in. Whereas like the pandemic happened, that was just a wild time for everybody. I felt a lot of people left LA. LA really turned into like a crap hole when that happened. And then a lot of people kind of rushed to Florida. A lot of people in the creative spaces, a lot of the coaches, fitness
interesting.
guys, everyone kind of went to Miami, Florida. And now what I'm seeing is those people that went to Miami that tried it out, that maybe, you know what happened is a lot of these guys, they went to Miami, they had maybe a really good experience for like 1 week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They're like, yeah, Miami's a spot. And then what happened is they settled there, and then they realized like, oh, maybe Miami isn't really the vibe for me. Maybe it's harder to meet people. Maybe it's
Mm.
harder to build a connection with like-minded people there in Miami. So I'm just hearing a lot of guys in our space kind of talk about that. Two bros specifically told me that exact same thing. So
Yeah,
that you can
because
have these like
man,
micro masterminds.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly, exactly. Because man, I've heard Florida or Miami, all of these things have just been popping up on different podcasts. Everyone seems to be in there. So yeah, you're definitely right. And like, just while we're on LA, man, because I know, for anybody who's listening and it's like they've never been to LA. What's the kind of day to day for you like living in LA? Because I've been seeing your stories and things like that. It's just such a beautiful place. I've been there briefly myself. Spent more time in San Diego when I was in California, but when I was in LA, I thought it was just like an interesting place to say the least. There's a huge contrast between the beautiful parts and then the parts that are maybe not so beautiful, and there's kind of like no in between. So it's like, what's it like in the day to day, man? I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, bro. What's it like on the day to day in the life of an entrepreneur living in LA?
Mm.
I wake up at like 8 a.m. Between 8 and 9. I sleep in because I do go to bed late. I wake up, I hydrate, I get my electrolytes. Usually within the first 45 minutes to an hour, I get coffee. Make coffee at home. Sometimes I'll like go outside of the house with my girlfriend Haley, and we'll like take a nice ride in the morning and like go get coffee somewhere. Alfred Coffee, Irwan, those have been like my number one and two spots, and also Alfred Coffee off of Sunset Boulevard. So we'll usually do that, get caffeinated, and then I usually like to do like a work sprint in the morning, just like check emails, check Slack, connect with clients. Sometimes I'll have a couple one-to-one coaching calls in the morning, like 2 hours back to back, and then I'm eating a meal and I'm going right to the gym. Usually between like 12 and 2. So like midday, I'll hit a workout because that's usually when my energy dips. I'll try to lift my
Mm.
energy back up midday, hit a workout, come back, hit a meal, and then crush some more client calls.
Nice.
Kind of like a nine
Yeah.
to five like type of lifestyle. Like that's my workflow. And then like
Yeah.
randomly you'll have the day where you completely just shake up your routine. Nothing's planned, and you're going to meet up with somebody, and you're just kind of going off the cuff. That was my day yesterday in Malibu with Arlen, and
Nice.
you're meeting these creatives, you're shooting content, you're going on walks like in Malibu. I would love to tell you about my day yesterday, dude.
Yeah. Go
It
for it,
was
man.
like
Go for it.
one of the best days I've had in a really long time. So because it wasn't your typical wake up, hydrate, eat, lift, coach clients, maybe enroll
Mm.
some clients type of a day. Um, so I drove out to Malibu. It took me probably about 35 minutes going from where I'm at, right by Runyon, to like the Palisades. And I met up with Arlen. We got some Irwan breakfast burritos. We got a Haley Bieber smoothie. I actually don't think it was the Haley Bieber smoothie, but it was something else. And yeah, just like fueled up, got our calories in, and his workflow and his workspace is set up so that there's like a gym and there's like these offices, and he's got like a 3 bedroom with like a really nice view with like a big patio, and it's like this kind of co-working space where you can kind of all come together, bring your laptops, and just do your thing, work from home,
Nice.
with everyone kind of like existing in the same place. And he had his friend come by named Val, and I just got to see his workflow for creating a reel to promote like a new angle to promote his group. And we made a video of us training martial arts, doing fitness, exercises in the gym, and it was just cool to see how they set up each shot and how they strategize like the specific reel to go viral. So like basically they were just getting a bunch of B-roll shots and then to put a
Love it. Yeah.
voiceover afterwards. So if like you're making a reel, you don't need to script out your reel line by line by line by line. You could just like
Hmm.
be in the moment and just be like, hey, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Get a bunch of B-roll and then put your voiceover behind that and narrate the story. And I got
Hmm.
that
Love it.
from Arlen and from Val. I would have never even thought about doing something like that. And had I not been there and actually saw the creative process. Because I think a lot of us who got into this space, maybe you're not like a film director. Like a lot of these kids, like Owen, for example, he went to film school. I never went to film school.
Mm.
I studied business. I studied finance.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I know how to crunch numbers. I never really had to like learn how to like understand lighting and microphones and focal points and lens, like none of that. Framing the shots, like none of that. I didn't learn any of that. So that's a big kind of skill set that I feel like still a lot of people are needing to learn how to like, set up their camera and use
Hmm.
tools like Riverside and kind of be
Yeah.
agile and adaptive. And we're kind of bringing out this new topic called the art of the ninjapreneur.
Ooh. Ooh, I love the sound of that.
Yeah, you want me to talk about it?
Yeah,
We got to talk about it. So
absolutely, man. What are the details?
Arlen invented the word ninjapreneur, but essentially the concept is a ninjapreneur is an entrepreneur who has the skill sets and the qualities of a ninja and the character traits. So what is a ninja? A ninja, they are fast, they are silent, they are agile, they adapt, they usually roll solo. So I'm seeing a higher desire to be lean and operate your business lean,
Yep.
not have a big team, right?
Hmm.
Simplicity. People are going for simplicity,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, 100%. See
right?
that across the
Right.
board.
That's a
Yeah, yeah,
major topic for us, like over the last couple
yeah.
weeks. So ninjas keep it simple. Ninjas are effective. Ninjas are quick. They're sharp. They adapt on the fly with all of this technology that comes out. Everything that we just talked about before with all of these gadgets, cameras, microphones, lav mics, DJI mics, all of these AI tools. You're going to increasingly need to develop these skills as technology advances. You don't even need these editors anymore. We could just take these clips right here, pop them on Opus Clip, and then boom,
Mhm.
have that spit out
Yeah.
captions. Opus Clip will find the winning gold in this podcast that we're
Hmm.
doing today.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just going to keep getting better, man. That's the beauty of AI. Because, like, and just coming back to content creation, because I think it's so easy to
Yeah.
overcomplicate things, and specifically with the amount of content out there these days, right? There's so many shorts, all these different platforms, and there's YouTube, and there's all these different things, right? It's so easy to look at it and be like, cool, I want to build a personal brand, I want to get my message out there, but how do I do all of these different things, especially if I'm going to be a ninjapreneur, right? I'm going to be kind of riding solo. And it's like, well, first of all, my thought process specifically
Mm.
behind like kind of us talking here as well is like, okay, how can we make it fun and how can we make it simple? Like we were going to be having these conversations anyway. So I was like, cool, we need to just start recording these things because we're going to be talking anyway. This is content, right? And like you said, with like the b-roll shots that Ireland was doing, like that's perfect, specifically if you're living somewhere like LA as well, or even if you're kind of doing anything, man. It's like I love what Brad Lee said before, which is like be the content, where it's like if you can just get into the habit of recording the stuff that you do, you're always
Yep.
keeping things
Yep.
fresh, and it's
Yep.
almost like building
Yep.
that habit. That's it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Learning that skill. So one of the first things we did before we got our food in the morning was we were riding in the car, getting deep right away, like locked right into an amazing conversation. And as we were talking,
Mm.
Arlen whipped out his microphone and I didn't even realize, but he started recording the conversation. And we created
Mm.
like a 10-minute
Yeah.
podcast in the car. So like that adaptability of being able to like capture the gold on
Yeah.
the fly, intuitively, creatively, like you're tapping into
Hmm.
that skill. I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had over the last couple of years where I did not capture the gold. So that's what we're
I
doing now.
know.
We're gonna capture
Yeah.
the gold. Yeah,
Exactly,
that's the
exactly, and
way.
that's why I kind of like this relaxed style of like, hey, let's just have a conversation. Let's not like look at, okay, well, what can I say is the hook, and what can I say is this. Of course, that has its place for sure, specifically for ads and things like that, right? But it's like I really think that people value authenticity, and people value to kind of be a fly on the wall on conversations on stuff that they're interested in from people that they're interested in. And I think that there's so much opportunity in being able to provide that to people by just, not being super structured, but keeping things really simple and just
Yeah.
keeping the conversation raw. You know what I mean? So yeah, dude, I think there's a massive opportunity with this stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
God, even Adobe. So I learned that you can actually extract the audio of this. And
Mm,
so like this whole example, this can actually be like my first podcast that I ever do and upload it to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We could take the
yeah.
audio of this and just upload it as a podcast. And what you could do is put it on Adobe Podcast and actually clean up the audio. I'm sure Riverside will do that as well, but you can enhance
Hmm.
the audio now. Like you don't need these fancy mics or anything. You could just, and
Yeah.
that's free, by the way. That's just like a free tool that you could use to make your audio sound better.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's
Cool,
crazy, and
right?
it's all like everything is becoming more AI generated, right? I found a very
Mm.
interesting tool yesterday, that was shared inside of a community I was in, and it's basically a tool where it takes notes on videos for you. So like what I would do sometimes just for like research purposes, if I was looking for specific information on, let's say, a topic I was going to do a video on, or just to kind of get insights. If I was creating something, I would watch out the series of different videos, take some notes on it, and kind of get different perspectives and insights to form my own. And obviously, when you're taking notes on things like that, it can get very messy. It's very drawn out. And I found this tool that basically it's called like Jot Form, or no, not Jot Form.
Mm.
It's like AI Jot something. Anyway, I can't remember what the exact name is. Jot Form is different. That's like a form thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what you can do is like you just get the link to the YouTube video, plug it into this AI tool, and it just starts to, transcribe the whole entire video and then take notes on it for you, right? So when it takes notes on it for you, it breaks it up into categories, pulls out the key points, and then you can just have like the whole thing in a list. So it's like you could even do it with this podcast as well, right? Someone, we could
Wow.
just have something take notes on what we're saying. So like, yeah, it's crazy, man. And this is why the whole like ninjapreneur thing makes sense, right? Because it's like you have all these tools at your disposal that can speed things up so fast. It's like, you know, the more people take advantage of those things, the more you can operate faster, get things out into the market faster, get content out
Yep.
faster. It's just
Yep.
going to speed everything up, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So there was like, I don't know if I have them in front of me. I can't look on my phone right now to get like at the actual bullet points of what we talked about, but it was like agility, having sales
Mm-hmm.
ability, being able to run ads. Like a ninjapreneur has all of these skills and all these qualities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So agility, adaptability, on the fly, almost being like a James Bond with these gadgets, like understanding lighting, microphones, cameras, or
Yeah.
like Batman with like all these tools, right? A ninja's got like his ninja stars, like he's got his rope, he's got his samurai sword, they're all tucked away, right? So
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
there's that. Then there's your ability to sell. Then there's
Mm-hmm.
your ability to move quickly. Then it's like we have to learn, how to like run paid ads and advertising, or just the ability to drive traffic in a way that you like enjoy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the ninjapreneur also needs real life ninja skills, like being able to defend yourself in
Yeah.
this crazy world in 2024. I think people are really emphasizing the need to learn how to defend yourself and get
Yeah.
those skills, because like what's the point in learning all these skills and doing this, right? Making money, like cool, you make $1 million a month, great, you got 7 cars, awesome. What are you going to do if someone puts a knife to your throat?
Mm.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. So true. So true, man. And it's like, it's interesting how
Like,
it's become more. I don't know what it is, like become more popular for, like, because I see a lot of guys doing like kickboxing, and it's
yeah,
becoming more and more popular in kind of like the masculinity space as well, which is awesome to see. Maybe that was like the whole Andrew Tate thing in the kickboxer. Who knows? Maybe that's what kind of sparked it. But I know definitely for me, like I started kickboxing, was it very properly, it was the beginning of like 2023, right? So the beginning, I was like getting in kind of the ring, sparring with people. Before that, it was more just like training by myself and things like that. But even that, and like getting in and sparring people, and just being in that atmosphere where someone's actually coming at you with the intention to really hurt you, right? it's I think an experience that every man specifically, you know, needs to be able to do, and then obviously for a woman as well in terms of like self defense. But it's like just putting yourself in that position and being uncomfortable with that and then learning how to manage that, I think is invaluable for also not just, you know, your ability to defend yourself, but your confidence, your character as well. It plays into a lot of those factors, because when you start to build those things, let's say outside of business, you start to build yourself more and more and more internally, and you can rely on yourself. You have more respect for yourself, and all these things kind of trickle into each other, and you become a more well-rounded human being just because of it. So I think just so many benefits from it, man. And specifically, you know, if you're going to be working and working and working to increase your income, increase your value, and just, you know, network with these different people, you don't know where you're going to be, who you're going to meet, and you may need to defend yourself at some point, man. So let's go into that a little bit, because I know you train people, right? You've
Yeah.
been training in Ireland. You've been training. Do you do classes? Yeah, let's just kind of walk through that a little bit. Do you do classes? Do you do one on ones? Like, what does that kind of look like?
Yeah. So, quick little overview. So, my dad signed me up for jujitsu and martial arts when I was actually 3 years old.
Nice.
It's a little baby. It was me and my brother. And I basically never stopped my whole life. So, I've been going on, I'm 33 now. So, I've been going on 30 years. And the style of
Mm-hmm.
martial arts that I train is Japanese jiu-jitsu. So it's traditional martial arts. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu that we all know and love now, that's affiliated
Mm-hmm.
with martial arts as Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that stems from Japanese jiu-jitsu. And Japanese jiu-jitsu was created from samurai culture. So the
Yeah.
samurais used to battle, right? And they used to like fight to the death, right? And they had a lot of interesting, ways of life. And, you know,
Mm.
jiu-jitsu evolved as a more hand-to-hand combat. So a lot of the wrist locks that were invented and created were for self-defense against a sword. So if a samurai like goes to reach for a sword, we'd have a pinning move where you would stop him from taking out the sword, and then there would be
Nice. Yeah.
reversals. So like you go for your sword, the other samurai goes to stop you, and then you can actually reverse that reversal with a wrist lock.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sick.
so it stems
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Japan, and it's stand-up self-defense. There's no rules. That's the difference between Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, is that like in the octagon, you cannot bite, you can't claw, you can't eye gouge, you can't rip the throat, you can't strike to the groin, you can't hit to the back of the head. Because if you did, like if you hit someone in the back of the head, they can go blind. If you
Mm-hmm.
gouge someone in the eyes, they could go blind. You can't scratch or bite, right? So like all of those things that you can do in a street fight, if you needed
Mm-hmm.
to defend yourself, save your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We train
Yeah.
to
No.
do. It's a scenario based self defense art.
Gotcha.
So, started when I was 3. My sensei made me wait till I was 16 years old to get my black belt. So, imagine that.
Okay. Yeah.
Imagine me like a
Wow. So
little baby wanting nothing more than to get my black
yeah,
belt, but I couldn't get it until 16. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
almost like building
Because
the
other
self
martial arts,
discipline and patience. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
patience. You had to earn it. So you value it when you put 13 years of the beginning of your life into something. You really, really value that. And I got a lot
Mm-hmm.
of my, I'm so grateful and blessed to be mentored by such incredible people my whole life. Like, God, like, have an incredible dad. I have an amazing sensei. I've just like gravitated towards like older, strong men who look after me. My uncle, my grandfather, like I really value men's teachings to me. Like I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for any of those people, if it wasn't for my martial arts training. Because I think what happens is if like you start developing your skills as a baby, then you stack up those skills,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin. And then it's like, that enthusiasm that you apply towards your martial arts training, you apply that enthusiasm towards, your life and your relationships. Allowed me
Mm-hmm.
to connect with humans. It's how I connect with people. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
everything, man.
No, that's so cool, man. And it's so like it's amazing that you started that early as well. I don't know many people that have started that early. Wow. Like how do you think that is shaped like your overall mindset? You kind of touched on it there, but like your overall mindset when it comes to business. How do you think that has shaped like other areas of your life, for example, around that?
So in martial arts, at the foundational level in my system, you're always challenging yourself to level up and get your next
Hmm.
rank. So you start off at white belt. You're a beginner. You're fresh. Then you learn a series of techniques or problems or adversities. And we are trained to deal with those scenario based self defense problems. It's like someone is going after your throat this way. What's
Hmm.
the priority? Okay, our windpipe. We have to protect ourselves. Now, how do we defend? How do we retaliate? So every technique is a problem or an adversity, and we are trained to overcome that problem and adversity in the moment on the fly. And you're just building up your muscle memory with every technique by with
Yeah.
repetition, right? So how does that apply to every problem that you could ever probably solve in your life? You're trained to just like eventually get to a place where you're just like, bring it. Like I know this is a problem. Like come
Yeah.
on, bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that's powerful.
leveling up, us
Mhm.
leveling up. We go from white belt to yellow belt to yellow with a black stripe, and then orange belt, orange with a black stripe, green belt, green with a black stripe, and then so forth with all these colors. Blue belt, purple belt, or sorry, green belt, red belt, blue belt, purple belt. Each one has the black stripe in between. So it's another rank that you would get in between before you rank up in color. Blue, purple, brown. You get brown with two stripes after the first stripe. And then you get your black belt.
Ooh.
And
I
at
love
that
the
point,
system. Yeah.
yeah, it's so think about it, you're leveling up. And like I had my
Yeah.
dad being like, when are you testing? When are you getting your next rank? You're constantly looking to, you're climbing and you're reaching for more and you never stop. The best martial arts systems actually, like they start you off as a kid. And a lot of these like Taekwondo and a lot of these schools, like they're really good for kids programs to help them develop confidence. But what they're lacking
Mhm.
is they're lacking a transitional program to take them from kid to adult. So a lot of
Mhm.
kids will train martial arts and they'll get their black belt at 8 years old. And then what happens? They
Mhm.
quit and they stop and then they
Yeah.
forget everything and they're not actually really
Yeah.
a black belt. So within
Mhm.
in our system, my sensei makes us wait to 16 years old.
That makes a lot of
Because
sense,
then
actually. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think
Yeah.
it's more realistic.
I love the way it's gamified though, because obviously that,
Mm.
it helps you bring like, you just want to get to the next level. Like naturally you want to progress and actualize as human beings. So it's like having that, I think is so key. I had a question for you there on that because
Oof.
how do you, yeah, I guess like in terms of leveling up, like how do you level up? Do you have to be able to
Mm.
do a certain type of technique and be able to do it effectively on somebody else? Like, do you have to fight someone to get to the next level? Like, how does that actually work in terms of ranking up?
It's a great question.
Do you have to fight the boss to get to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
the difference between like my style and maybe like boxing or wrestling or MMA is there's not really like a live sparring component to how we do things. Like we really believe in like in longevity. Like I don't necessarily have to like fight in the octagon to make money. I
Hmm.
have other skill sets and it, I just like, I want to protect the castle, right? I want to protect my brain. There's certain
Yeah.
people that have to fight or certain people that want to fight. It's part of our student creed. It's like to build my mind and body as one, to respect one another,
I love
never
that.
fight to achieve selfish ends, but to develop the
Hmm.
might for right. So imagine that line. That line was never fight to achieve selfish ends, but to develop the might for right. So that was like ingrained in me as a little kid. We used to say that student creed like out loud. That
Yeah.
was our
I
student
love that,
creed.
man. That's so powerful.
Yeah. And when it came to ranking up, like how do you level up in our system? Like every category, every belt was broken down into three categories. We had stand up self defense, free fighting self defense, and then ground fighting self defense. So with free fighting self defense, for example, that's like blocking, striking, escaping, self defense against a boxer, self defense against a Muay Thai fighter,
Mm. Okay.
standing up self defense against those free fighting strikes, right? Those common attacks. And then you have stand up self defense, which is like, what do you do if someone grabs you? What do you do if someone tries to choke you from the front? If they come at you from behind, if they try to grab you, right? So those grabs and those scenarios where someone tries to put you in a headlock, someone tries to wrap their hands around your throat, someone attacks you with a knife, someone attacks you with a gun. That's all under the stand up self defense category, where we're learning wrist locks, finger
Mm.
manipulation, joint locks, arm bars, chokes. And there's ground fighting self defense. So, how do you defend yourself on the ground? 90% of fights will go to the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever been in one? So, ground,
Yeah.
that's what I love about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and wrestling is
Mm-hmm.
that you learn how to control your opponent, adversary with technique. And what's cool about Jiu Jitsu is that Jiu Jitsu is the gentle art. So, it's actually meant for the little guy to defeat the bigger guy with his energy and momentum. So we actually get to a place where we're like taking that person's energy and we're not resisting that energy. We're taking what we get and we're alchemizing it, we're flowing with it, and we're directing it and sending it on its way. There's no resistance. It's just flow.
Mm.
So how does that
Oh yeah.
apply
Yeah.
towards your life?
I can even imagine there's a lot. Because even what you said there, because I can just imagine, right? You're on the ground and it's basically just you're moving around. You're trying to get like the upper hand. Like you can see you've seen it in the UFC and different fights and things. And it's like I really like what you said about being able to shift that energy and shift the movement. So it's like it's very tactical and it's like I'm not even sure the best way to say it, but yeah, man, no, that's it
Yeah.
was really interesting the way you put it. Yeah,
I'll give you an example of that. Let's say I grab your
yeah,
wrist and I pull you in.
yeah. Hmm.
What would resisting be? If I were to do that to you and you were to resist that, what would you do?
I would
You'd
like pull
probably
back.
you'd pull back.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
going with it, if I were pulling you in, you would come in. You would go with the energy. If I'm pulling you, you would
Uh
just
huh.
go with it and strike, because
Yeah.
you don't want someone doing that, right? Or you could escape in another way that doesn't result in breaking windows. So we have another
Interesting.
concept in martial arts. We can break windows. So let's say you really needed to get into a house.
Hmm.
What could you do? You could grab a brick that you found on the sidewalk and you could throw that brick into the window and break
Hmm.
the window and enter in that way. Or you could open the door. Or if it's locked, you can use your special tool that you have to open the door without
Hmm.
causing any damage. So in
I like
jiu-jitsu, we
it.
have those two flows, right? You could break the
Yeah.
window
Hmm.
and most likely you're going to be able to get in. So there's a high chance that you're going to be able to get in if you break the window, but you're going to cause a lot of damage. And you maybe could cut yourself when
Yeah.
you're getting in. So if you break a window in self-defense, that's like taking your hand and driving it to somebody's nose and busting their nose and sending their nose into their brain, right? Or taking your knuckles and cracking them in the jaw. You're probably going to break a window. You could break their jaw, you could break the eye orbit, and at the same time, you could maybe bust up your hand if you don't do it properly. So
Mm.
we don't always want to break windows all the time. You don't, breaking shit is fun. It could be a good stress relief. But if you break too many windows, AKA like punch people in the face, you can go to jail for that. So,
Yeah.
breaking
Yeah.
windows
I see
isn't
what you
the only
mean.
solution.
Yeah. That's a really, really interesting way to put it, man, because it's like, it just made me think of one of the questions that I've heard from Tim Ferriss is like, what would this look like if this were easy? And it's like, by breaking the window, you're kind of being a bit reckless and you kind of create more problems from that. But it's like,
Mm,
what would it look like if it were easy? It's like, well, okay, I would probably do the opposite of what a lot of people would do. And I would kind of go with the flow, I would go with the energy. I would just open the door. And if you know how to do that, you're you're almost using reverse psychology because the person is not expecting you to just go with it, but you know what you're doing and you have intention behind it. So I love that.
Mm,
That's a great analogy.
is
Yeah,
that cool?
not guiding people to start breaking into houses and break windows. That's do that at your own accord. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The opening the door would be, um, like a wrist lock or a submission or just like a warning, and not causing any damage. Because yeah, there's repercussions when you do that. Fighting, God, if it comes down to any, like, you should never, fighting solves nothing. You should only
Mhm.
resort to that. Like, if someone's trying to break your window and the only way for you to not have your window broken was to break their window first,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's the way that I kind of look at it. But and that's like kind of tying back into, the theme of this style of jujitsu being the gentle art, is that, like, when you are trained and you have control, you don't need to break windows. You can go about it in a way that is the gentle way, and it's the way that you can actually teach someone a lesson without causing any pain or any damage. And that, I think, is like,
Hmm.
it's really cool when you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see that. I see that. It's almost like a rattlesnake snake bite or something. It's so subtle, but it's painful, right? And it's like subtle. It's not
Yeah.
like you're coming up and creating chaos. No, that's super interesting, man. And what would you say to someone who's looking to get started in something like this, right? Learn to fight, no matter if it's Japanese jiu-jitsu or whatever it may be. What would be like a good piece of advice for someone who's getting started in this?
It's a good question. I mean, the first question that I would have you ask yourself is like, why? Why do you want to learn?
Mhm.
What's the real reason why you want to learn? Is because maybe you don't feel as confident as you want to feel in certain situations. Maybe you felt uncomfortable in situations. You're like, okay, I don't want to be in that position again, or this happened to me, or I saw this. Like, if it's a genuine desire to learn how to defend yourself and your family, like, ask yourself why. Do you want to, like, be healthier? Do you want community? What are you looking for? Because if you want
Mhm.
community, go to a dojo. The best way to learn martial arts, hands down, will always be in person. Always, 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 always.
Mhm.
There is no best style either, right? A lot of
Yeah.
martial artists, I feel, especially the heads of certain systems, there's a lot of ego that is attached to them believing that their way is the best way and the only way. And I've seen this happen over and over across my entire life of, like, yep, karate's the best system, taekwondo is the best system,
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, krav maga. The krav maga guys are like, krav maga, everything is krav maga's the best. We're the Israeli fighting military. The way that they market it, it's like, great, you're breaking windows, cool, that's what you're doing. You're breaking windows. And guess what? When you break windows with a beginner class, and there's people that don't have that control yet, they're not seasoned, well, that's how you get injured.
Hmm.
So I have this very long-term focus when it comes to training martial arts. Like, out of 30 years, knock on wood, never been injured, never broke any bones, not once. I've got stitches on my head here. But imagine that. Imagine training for 30 years. Well, guess what? I want to go for another 30.
Hmm.
And I don't want any damage. I want to preserve my body. So I think how you train in the gym is really important. You see a lot of these boxers, these MMA fighters, these Muay Thai fighters, like, they're crippled after a
Yeah.
career because they're taking, like, real damage, and then, like, they're
Hmm.
brain dead. No offense to Nate Diaz. Love you, bro.
Hmm.
Love the Diaz brothers. But he's taking a lot of shots to the dome.
Yeah, man. So true.
So I don't know how that's going to affect him when he's older. He's a cool bro. I met him once, but you can
Oh
take
yeah.
lessons and learn from situations like that. And so, like, that's why, and ask yourself the question of, like, what do you want to do it for? Are you looking to, achieve a level of accomplishment that, like, most guys and girls achieve? You know what's really interesting? Did you know that out of one out of did you know that one out of 100,000 people that start to train in a martial art ever achieve their black belt? So the people that start, it's one out of 100,000. This is in like karate, taekwondo, any standard martial art.
Wow, I
One
did
out of
not know the numbers were
100,000
that
that start.
low.
Yeah. Now check this out.
Wow.
In my style,
Uh-huh.
one out of every 250,000 people that start in Japanese jiu-jitsu ever achieve their black belt.
Wow. Why is it so low? Like, do you, yeah, because I didn't think it'd be that, that much. Like, I mean, I guess commitment, long term commitment would probably be one of them. But what do you think it is? Do you think it's like the skills are too hard to learn? People aren't committed. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. Just from what you've seen, I'd be curious to know.
I feel, and from what I've seen, people have a really hard time of showing up consistently,
Mm,
especially when it's hard. It's showing up. Showing up is half, it's literally 80% of it. You have to, if you show up to class, you'll be so happy that you went, right? Like on a Monday night, we have our advanced class, 7:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m. There's a 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30. Who the hell wants to go to the dojo at 7:30, 8:30 at night on a Monday after you're exhausted after work? But then when you get to
mm.
the dojo and you're in that environment and you're with that sensei, it's like you're rewarded for doing the thing that you know that's hard to do.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah.
that's why it's that skewed. It's the fact that people are just habitually they just give up too soon.
Mm.
They don't have a strong enough why. Maybe they don't connect with their sensei. Maybe they don't connect with the people in the dojo. Right? There's a lot of reasons why. Maybe they don't have a ride. Maybe their parents stopped taking them.
Mm.
Right? I'm blessed, man. Like I might have quit. There's people in my family. Like my brother didn't make it. He didn't get his black belt, and we signed up at the same time. So I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint one specific reason for that. It's like
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's probably like, I mean, same reasons why people don't stick with the gym, or don't stay
yeah,
committed with those things. It's like, um, I
yeah,
guess it's the I always talk about identity and mindset when it comes to these things. I think, I mean, everything is built from the foundations of who you believe yourself to be, who you want to be, and then everything that comes after that really comes from who you say that you are. So if you have this kind of problem with being the person who shows up consistently, if that's not something that you've done before, it's going to be difficult to do it with something that is hard, let's say like this, or the gym, or whatever it is. It's the same in any situation. So it's like there's so many small little things, like you mentioned, like your brother did it, it was in the family, you were young doing it, so it was like had that kind of like pull as well. And it's interesting to see that. But then you have people that are driven by other reasons, right? And it comes back to having the strong why. Like, why are you doing this? Like, I was recently watching a video, a conversation with David Goggins, which is he's a super super interesting guy, with
yeah.
Andrew Huberman, right? And his why is like just basically like beating the bitch brain. Like, that's his whole thing. It's
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm doing this simply because I'm constantly at war with the old identity, the old person that he used to be. And if he stops doing that, then he stops being who he is. And it's like, I mean, he's kind of on his own level. I just think he's a fascinating guy, and obviously his levels of discipline is out of this world. It's super admirable. But it's just so interesting to see what drives people to do these things. I know, like, some people then would be driven from the fact that they don't want to feel disempowered, right? Like you said, maybe they're in a situation before where they, wish they could have defended themselves, but they didn't, or maybe someone got hurt in
Mm,
their family and they would love to be able to do that. And I think all of these things that we mentioned here is like coming back to, well, what is your why in anything? Like, what's your vision for yourself, for the thing that you're doing, and what's the reason behind that? I think, even tying this to business as well, I think that's one of the biggest drivers behind anything. We've talked a little bit about this as well, and we can kind of go into this too and kind of segue into that. But
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
having a why and a vision is more important than anything else, because there's a lot of boring stuff that you have to do to be able to make things happen, and a lot of it is not fun. You know what I mean? It's not like it's all sunshine and things are great and it's all exciting, because it's not. At the end of the day, it's pretty boring stuff. But it's like, if you have a big enough why, you can withstand anyhow. And that's a quote that I heard. Can't remember exactly who said it, but it's one of the best I've heard. It's so simple. So like, what's your why? Like, what's your why for doing the things that you do now? Which is, I know you're in the middle of kind of transitioning offers, and we were kind of discussing like how that ties into the stuff that you want to do, the stuff that you want to talk about. Have you thought about this? I would love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts, so we can kind of bounce
Yeah.
back and forth on this, because I think vision and having a why is just so powerful, so powerful, because you start to create something that's bigger than you, and no matter what that is, I think it's personal to everybody. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on that, man, because the vision is everything, right?
Yeah. It's like, I feel like everything of what you just said and what you just asked, it stems to two words. So the words are know thyself. I think if
Mm,
you know yourself, you'll know what motivates you. What are you
yeah.
motivated by? Are you motivated by money? You just want money. Are you motivated by power? Are you motivated by the fulfillment that you receive by giving to other people? Is that what fuels you? Is that what motivates you? I forget who said that. I think there's four things. I might be missing one right now. But I think if you know yourself and what motivates you, it can help you craft your vision for your life, because you can kind of tie in that motivator that you're born with your
Hmm.
vision. So I know that I'm definitely not motivated by money. I know that I want money. I think that was just ingrained to me by like my New York culture and how I was raised and how I grew up. Like I'm definitely like, chasing the coins in some
Yeah.
respect. But I think, I've made like I know the discrepancy. It's so funny. Like I had my mentor say, money doesn't make you happy, right? Money doesn't make you happy. And I was like, yep, I believe you. I just want to find out for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think once your income exceeds your expenses consistently for a long, long time, and you're able to kind of like develop a lifestyle for yourself that you know and love, and then maybe you have months where it's like you far exceed that amount that you're used to, and your life actually doesn't change at all, and you're not actually any more happier than you were than you have been.
Hmm.
That's how I know money doesn't actually motivate me. I actually think I'm motivated by like positive feedback and validation by other people. I think that like deep down I'm like a people pleaser. I don't think there's anything wrong
Interesting.
with that, because it motivates me to help other people and get that positive feedback. It's how I get energy. It's how I stay motivated. So to answer your question though, I've thought about this like a lot over the last couple months, and I've read this a
Mhm.
lot in like my astrology readings and these books. And it said specifically for me, it's like you're only truly going to be motivated if you feel like the thing that you're doing is your calling, the thing that you were born to do. And that's why like this topic of martial arts has come back around, because I'm getting feedback from the people that I'm building relationships with and getting their first impressions of like, and they're saying like, dude, what are you like, why are you ignoring your calling? Why, what do you, because you think it's so easy? Go above and beyond. Like that's where my mindset is now. I always wind up coming back to this topic of martial arts.
Wow.
Always. It always
Yeah.
winds up circling back. Like when I did in 2018, I went through Alex Hormozzi's gym launch program, and I was like in a similar state of like kind of shifting. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have my dojo. I'm going to launch it, right? With gym launch. And I wound up learning a ton of skills in that process. I learned how to run paid ads. I learned how to sell 6-week challenges. I created a boot camp. I had like 150 people come through my boot camp Jesse's boot camp, and it was like martial arts
Mhm.
inspired fitness with a
Yeah.
6 week challenge to it, and it was really one of the best times of my life. I just felt over time I just kind of got like really burnt out from it, and I wanted more freedom. I didn't want to be tied to a
Mhm.
specific location, so I kind of like dismantled that and then created a coaching offer from the skills that I learned with that program. But I've had this like black and white mentality, like, oh, you do this, you go all in, you get burnt out from it. Oh, that pain, burnout, that sucks. Sabotage, shut it all down. And then, okay, what's the next thing? You know, like, and
Mhm.
then that's not good. So then it's like, oh, I associated martial arts with that. So that doesn't work. I'm
Mhm.
expanding my vision to include the calling and the skill set, but also have it match my selfish goals. So now I'm thinking like, okay, how is it possible for me to operate within the calling of solving that problem, like how to defend yourself, right? The
Mhm.
dream
Yeah.
outcome. The dream outcome is like, like I always thought like, oh, I can't train people martial arts online or can't share my knowledge, right? You got to be in person. No way, man. No
No way,
way.
man.
So
Yeah.
yeah, now it's like rather than get your black belt, you might not be able to get your black belt with me over a camera. We'll have to be in person for that. And that'll be for, sometime definitely in the future. We'll get back to the boot camp flow worldwide. Uh, Ultimate
Mhm. No.
badassery, martial arts in person, level up frequency vibes for sure. Um,
What a
but
headline.
in the meantime, it's like, hey, just check this out. By the time you're finished with this program, course, community, you're going to be in like the top 5% of guys that know how to defend themselves. That's my goal. Just do
Mhm.
my daily training regimen, just practice my strikes. I'll tell you where to go. We can visualize so that if you had to do it in person, you could just flip a button and make it real. And I'll turn you into a weapon.
That sounds amazing. I guess the dream outcome there
Is
would be
that?
like become a top 5% guy, that can do that. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
yeah.
great, cool. You make $3 million a year, but will you get your ass kicked if a homeless guy attacks
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So that's actually
That's
my goal is like I want to like align with successful people that want to defend themselves. I feel like martial arts attracts mega successful people. You want to know why?
got something to lose.
If you're if you're a trust fund kid, if you're a trust fund kid and you're on daddy's
Mhm.
payroll, a lot of trust there's like this theme now with like all these trust fund kids like wanting to be famous, right? So they're doing everything that they possibly can to be famous because money still really can't buy you fame. You have to get some skills.
Yeah.
So then they're putting money
Yeah.
to acquire skills or a team or whatever to be famous. You can't throw, I mean, actually, you know what? Maybe you can get some bodyguards if you don't know how to defend yourself. That's
Mhm.
okay. There you go. I'll think ahead there. Money, you can throw money at that problem. But if it were just you and if you were walking in that alleyway and no one else was there, you have to
Mhm.
earn the skill. That's why it attracts high level people. You have to
Yeah.
earn those self defense skills yourself. You can't throw money at that problem.
Mhm. Very true. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And that's that level of accomplishment too. Again, it's something that like you make that on your own. So you earn it yourself. You have to put in the work for it. So it's
Yeah.
it's cool that it attracts that type of
Yeah.
person.
For sure. It's interesting. I guess it comes back to like having meaning and purpose in your life, right? Something that you're working on, something that's yours, something that, nobody can take away your skill set at the end of the day. And I guess, if
Yeah.
money is not really a driver where you're trying to go from scarcity to abundance, or you're trying to go from, trying to pay bills to, having money, if that's not a factor, then I guess you'd start looking for it in other ways. And if you had something to lose as well, self-defense, that would make a lot of sense to have that as well. So yeah, it's interesting, man. It's interesting. LA is just an interesting place, I'd imagine. I can imagine you meet a lot of cool people. Just interesting
Oh
cats, you
yeah.
know.
Oh God, dude. Yeah. Yesterday was crazy, and to go back to like the motivating thing for a second.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm definitely motivated most by freedom, autonomy,
Yep.
time control,
Yeah.
freedom over like what you choose to do in your day, not
100%.
having to be anywhere at a specific time, not being told what to do by any authority, not having a boss. I did that in my time out of college working in finance. I had a boss who I was very close with. He was awesome. I learned some amazing skills from him as well, but he knew deep down I was miserable. He told me years later that when I worked for him, I looked like I was a caged animal,
Mm.
just like a
Yeah.
sad caged animal that just,
You're right. I feel that. It's the exact same.
you know. So
Yeah.
he cut me free. He let me go, and he cut me free for my own benefit. And that was like one of the
Mhm.
best things that could have ever happened at that time. I was 23, 22 at the time, 23. Um, yeah. So autonomy and time control, like, just the monotony of doing this same thing all day, every single day, or yeah, that's definitely a major motivator for me. It's that location freedom. So now,
Mhm.
like, for the last 4, 5, 6 years operating like this coaching business, it's so awesome because you get to attract clients remotely. You don't have to be in a specific location for that. We could use our tools, social media, paid ads,
Mhm.
outbound. We can sell remotely, phone calls, DMs, Stripe links, evergreen payment systems, whatever. Like, you could sell it from
Yeah.
anywhere, and then you can fulfill on the service from anywhere, which is awesome. So you can track clients
Mhm.
all over the world, sell clients from all over the world, and fulfill on the service remotely. This
And
did not
it's so
exist.
incredible to even think that we can do that. You know what I mean? Like, as when you're in the
Yeah,
space, it's like it's so normal. Like that, this is what you do if you have an agency or a coaching offer or something like that. It's so easy to just um, almost ignore the fact that, yeah, we can do everything online. Like the amount of times where it's like we've had like let's say a returning client coming back for a done for you service, for example, and you just send them like a Stripe link, and then you just made money. There was no sales call or anything like that. It was just, it's like this crazy, crazy world, and it's becoming more and more possible for so many people. It's just really incredible when you take a step back and realize that this didn't even exist,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
before.
You could not go to college to learn how to do what we know how to do now.
No,
I actually
no.
believe that, like, self education is one of the best things that any person can do. I learned so much more out of college. I went to college in 2008 to 2012 during the Great Recession. Didn't even feel it. I was 18 years old, left Long Island, went to West Virginia University, and I was just like on cloud nine, like having the best time of my life in college. And then after
Mhm.
that, getting a job was really hard to get a job in finance.
Mhm.
Sucked. The dream that I was promised: go to college, get a degree, you're gonna graduate with $100,000 a year salary. That's what I was told
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
exact way. Yeah,
yeah,
graduate, get a 4 year degree, and you get $100,000 a year. No, bullshit. Okay, that did not happen. That the millennials were like sold a lie. Okay, or it
yeah.
just
Hundred
just didn't
percent.
happen. So a lot of the skills, I believe, like, for any kid, this is interesting too. So for any kid right now that's, like, let's say in college or right out of college, looking back, 22, 23, and 24 years old as a very young man was one of, like, the hardest times in my life, because there was all of this expectation and pressure to have it all figured out at that age.
Mm.
I think our generation above us, the boomers and the X's, did a disservice at the time, but they didn't know. Like, they were just trying their best based off of their experience, based off of the world and culture that they lived through.
So true.
So that I have empathy and compassion for that. But I still think now, even with Gen Z, one of the toughest times is still college. 'Cause college obviously still exists. I know there's a lot of Gen Zers that are using their creative skills and social media. It's incredible what some of the Gen Zers are doing. But I also do know that a lot of the Gen Z
Yeah.
kids have a higher depression rate. And I just remember how I felt 22, 23, 24. When you feel like you need to have it all figured out at that age,
Mm.
please, 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 please take a step back, chill out, and realize you have so much time. You're not old. You're 22. Like, I'm 33, and I really feel like I'm still like tip of the iceberg after everything I've done, everything I've been through.
Yeah.
It's really like the best years of your life is your 20s, and it gets even
Mhm.
better in your 30s from my experience.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you invest in yourself, you could pay for skills. You learn how to network. You know yourself more. It's the best. So you just be patient, and you're not supposed to have it all figured out. Like, test, try, learn skills. Don't be afraid. Like, don't beat yourself up for not like going all in on one thing. That was another thing I used to do, bro. I don't know if you ever did that too, but you know how they say like a jack of all trades is a master of none. You ever hear that quote? A jack
Still
of all
better than a master
trades.
of one, or still better
Yeah,
than a master of one. Is I think that's the end of the quote that nobody talks about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 What happens is, like, this is like life, especially when you're young. You have the ability to learn so much when you're young. You can stack your
Mhm.
skills and up your skills and level up your skills so much more when you're younger, right? It's harder to teach an old dog new tricks. But
Yeah.
I think that's how you condition, your brain over your lifetime of like learning the faculties, like even just with not just reading and writing and speaking, like the math, like basic level skills that you should learn, how to like take care of yourself, how to eat healthy,
Mhm.
making sure you drink enough water, taking care of your teeth, like those little things, like,
Yeah.
doing the laundry, keeping the house clean. Like, so many people don't even know how to fucking do that. Okay. Those are
Oh
like
yeah.
basic level foundation stuff that you should like know how to
Yeah.
do, that you learn how to do when you go away to college. But
Yeah, dude. That's so
it,
true. So true.
yeah,
Yeah.
you do the
And
work,
like,
then you're able to build up these other skills.
yeah. Yeah. But I think
Yeah.
I think you find your way by doing that, by stacking the skills. Because
Yep.
even when I remember when I was making the transition from someone who worked a job to college student, to seeing what the college students where that was leading me in terms of like a 9 to 5. I had worked 9 to 5s and factory jobs and all these different things in the past. But when I was looking at what was ahead of me, I was like, I was speaking to some people in jobs, and I
Mm,
just didn't really want to be where they were. A lot of them seemed kind of a little bit beat down, a little bit like they felt it sounded like they were promised something much greater, and then they realized that like, hey, this is not it. Um, so I thought that was a little bit depressing in my opinion. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I had an opportunity with the online space, so I started to jump into that. And the reason I mentioned this is because my first like year of starting the agency, trying to travel, trying to figure everything out, was me just doing everything for everybody, like as kind of like a freelancer.
yeah.
I would hop on email marketing opportunities. I would run ads for random businesses that I could reach out to or cold call, and I would go and I would find these people, and I would just do something for them, because like, and I know everybody was telling me, hey, you need to pick a niche, and hey, you need to pick one service, and you need to scale it, and all these things.
Mm,
And I think in the beginning, like, you've no idea about anything, so like kind of being, from my experience, being a generalist in that situation has been super beneficial, because you can go off and you can figure out, well, what it is that you actually like doing, what is something that you're reasonably good at, and how can you go ahead and do more of that. And the only way you do that is not
mm,
by just choosing. You just do it by figuring it out, and then you understand more about yourself. You get to know yourself, like you mentioned. And when you do that, you start to see, okay, cool, I can do this for this person, this is a problem that I can solve using the skill that I learned. And you start to eventually find your way. And I think that's such an important part of the process, specifically in the early days. You're not supposed to have it all figured out in college, with a job, in business, no matter what it is that you're doing. And I think just allowing yourself that time to really be able to take a step back and be like, cool, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to take action. Most importantly, I'm not going to try and figure it out the whole time before I do anything, and then just take action with the information that you do have, stack the skills, figure it out, and find what kind of works for you and your way of thinking and your way of doing things. So, yeah, man, I think that's something that's not talked about enough, in my opinion. Yeah,
Totally agree, bro. I know. Trial
yeah,
and error. But I just think people don't do enough. They don't do enough volume. They don't get enough reps in. They don't get
yeah.
enough sets in. They don't do enough to be able to get to that point where they're able to like compare. Okay, like how is this versus that? What did I like
Hmm.
more? You know, and I think when you
Yeah,
do more and you get more reps in, you're able to stack up your winning success formula. So your
yeah,
winning success formula, what works
yep,
best for you. If you fall off track, let's say you find out a recipe that works really, really well for you. You stack up that winning success formula, you write it down, put it in one of your notes on your iCloud. Jordan winning success formula. Jesse winning success
hmm,
formula. Do this, do this, do this. If you ever fall off track, if you feel out of it, you're probably not following the recipe of your winning success formula. So you should get back to that
yeah,
and just get back to doing the thing that you know how to do to win.
absolutely. I love that, man. And just I kind of build on that point. Like what I actually started doing a while back was documenting wins. Like you have
Ooh,
those kind of
yeah.
like those little wins that don't even feel like wins, but you're like, oh, that worked. That thing worked. That thing that I said worked. That process worked. The thing that I did in my day worked. Whether it's a habit, whether it's a thing that you did with or for a client, anything that comes up, I started documenting those things and the date beside it to see, okay, that worked. Because we forget about these things, man. We forget about them all the time. So if you start documenting them and implementing into this winning success formula, you can look back and say, hey, this worked here. This is actually a win that I documented. So for you also get the this I guess the satisfaction of like being able to stack those over time and seeing your progress, which is I think is just so important for your mindset overall and seeing how far you've come. But you can start to see, okay, cool, how can I do more of this in the future? Coming back to your winning success formula.
Mm, mm. You know, it's so interesting, man. At the end of every black belt ceremony, my sensei goes down the line for everyone who ranked up that day and he asks one simple question. Where were you before you started training? Where are you now? Three questions. And then where are you going?
Mm,
And it allows you to reflect on where were you before you started? Where are you at now in your life now that you accomplished this? And then where are you going with it? What happens is when you're consistently following your winning success formula for a while, the answer to that third question, like where are you going, it's very simple.
mm-hmm.
More of the same. More of the same. If it's going well and you're winning and you're happy and you're crushing it, there you go. Do more volume of the same
Yeah, I love the simplicity of that.
because life is good. So it's like
Exactly.
gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. I,
It's such a common thing, or a piece of advice in business as well, which is the exact same thing, man. It's like it's so easy to do something that has worked and then stop doing it for some reason, and then you're looking for some other thing, and I've definitely been
yeah.
guilty of it in the past as well, where like you find something that worked, and for some reason you stop doing it, and you're like, well, I could go and test this thing out, and it's like, why are you doing this? It's
Do the
funny.
thing that
It's funny.
works. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It's the boring stuff though, because it's like this new shiny thing that like may or may not work. And I think, man, as human beings, like we love, from what I've learned just from studying people, is like we love the excitement and the uncertainty, right? We crave that. So like when we do things that work, we have a certain element of certainty in our life, relative, and we kind of crave this uncertainty. So it's very common for people to just go and mess things up just for the sake of doing it
Yeah.
unconsciously, you
Yeah.
know? 'Cause it creates
Yeah.
this kind of like whirlpool of chaos. And consciously might say that, hey, we don't like doing this, but we, we crave it, we crave that excitement. So it's just the human mind, especially is just fascinating, man,
Yeah. I have a mentor.
Yeah.
He says, he's like, oh, humans love to torture themselves. We
Hmm.
create our own problems. The problems that we perceive as problems are literally our imagination most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're these like invisible evils that are just like, that voice in your head, right? The dark wolf and the white wolf, right? The
Hmm.
devil and the angel.
Yeah.
That's it's true. It's true.
It's interesting. Yeah.
We were talking about this
It's-
really crazy topic last night, kind of going off of what you and I love to talk about with like
mm,
clearing charges, right? And that
mm,
skill that
yeah.
we're putting into practice and learning. It's the idea of neutralizing negative experiences
Hmm.
and positive experiences so that you can operate at equilibrium.
Yeah.
So if you take a
Dude,
look at like the
so
law
good.
of polarity, right? We
Mm,
got light
yeah. Let's do it.
and dark, good and bad. You know where I'm going with this. Yin
Yeah.
and
Absolutely,
yang,
man. This is it. This is
masculine
the
and
stuff.
feminine, hot and
Yeah.
cold, right? Like pleasure and pain. Okay.
Hmm.
You take a look at all of that. If you can, so there's power and vulnerability as well, right?
Hmm.
Whenever something happens, bad or good, if you can get back to equilibrium, it'll save yourself from like future problems or future infatuation. So I'll give you an example. Like,
Yeah.
let's
Massive.
say like you're too vulnerable, right? Like your treasure chest is open. If your treasure chest is too open and you're too vulnerable within the wrong environment, someone can come in and steal out the treasure, right? And now it's like you're
Yeah.
depleted, you're drained, you got to recharge. It's going to take forever to get back to
Hmm.
equilibrium. Versus the opposite side of that is like power, right? And
Hmm.
like having control and being, that's a more like yang energy, masculine energy, right? And that might not be good because you might be, you could cause damage if you do that, or you could like ruffle some feathers and hurt some relationships, like if you do that too. Um,
Hmm.
I think really successful people have the ability to balance their power and balance their vulnerability so that they can get back to equilibrium, right? Let's say if like someone cuts you off, right? You shift to your power as subconsciously, you're angry, and then it's like now you're pissed off for like a while because of that happened. That's like a
Hmm.
low person who maybe lacks self-awareness like in that moment versus it happens, you acknowledge it, maybe you're aware of the emotion, you're aware of yourself getting angry and shifting to your power. But if you're the quicker that you are aware of that shift on that spectrum of power and vulnerability and you shift back to equilibrium, that's how I feel like successful people really operate, where they can control
Yeah.
their emotions so that they're neutral.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely, brother. Like, if we look at what mindset is overall, you know what I mean? It's just emotional regulation because there's so many things that come up in our lives, right? Past, present, maybe in the future as well. Things will always happen, you know. And at the end of the day, we can only focus on what we can control. But of course, these things may affect us. So it's like and coming back to what you said there, when it comes to wisdom, true wisdom is really being able to, like, the faster you can see both sides of anything and come back into the middle
Mm,
is true wisdom, because you can see both sides. You can see things for the way that they are, not good or bad, you know, and then come back into to the middle and just move forward with clarity and confidence, you know. So it's like
I love
being able
that.
to break
Yep.
down, yeah, yeah, like being able to like just break down these charges and things that have happened in our lives, because I mean the mind it can be complex, you know what I mean. It can be tangled, and it can be all of these things kind of balled into one. And once you start to see, okay, well, this event that happened in my life, how can I neutralize maybe the frustration that I feel about this thing? And you start to see both sides, you start to see the benefits, you
Mm,
start to see how it's actually fueling you and how it's actually serving you, because everything is that you maybe perceive as negative is actually serving you in some way as well, because of that polarity. So the faster you can see that, the more you can just neutralize everything. And when you remove that frustration, that actually might maybe tied to something related to guilt. And then you neutralize that. And then that might be tied to something that is related to anxiety for a future outcome. And then you neutralize that. And this is a process. It's not something you just do in an afternoon, but like the more you get into the habit of doing that, and this is something that I work on with clients as well, because it's crazy when you start to untangle these things. You can just take action.
Mm,
You can just do the things without fear, without anxiety, because your perception of overall reality, your lens of how you view the world is clear. So you can just do what you need to do. Because the only reason that I found for myself, and when I started to dive into this for in the beginning, was because I wasn't taking the actions I needed to take, and I was wondering why that was. And I started to dive deeper into this and dive deeper into the mindset behind it, and it was because my emotions were just all over the place. Right, I was getting pulled in different directions. I was getting shiny object syndrome, and it was all because I was believing things about the world that weren't really true based on past events that were just running my whole entire life, running my subconscious, running my unconscious mind. And it was like you start to pull that apart and balance things out. It's like, oh, now I see the world clearly. And now the how-to strategies and the how-to things that I was learning are actually just something that I can just go ahead and implement quite easily without these limitations. So it's like that has been one of the most profound things that I have discovered, and this is the reason why I've pivoted my offer into like mindset related, because you can
mm,
solve if you can solve that problem, building a personal brand, being consistent with content, being consistent with sales, becoming better at sales. You just do the stuff over a long period of time. You can stay on the path, and over a long enough period of time, you make it unreasonable for you not to actually see success. So it's like the mind is everything, man. And emotional balance. I think you're absolutely right when you say that the most successful people can just see both sides very, very fast and then come back into equilibrium, you know?
wow. So how would you, let's say, neutralize, let's say, perceived bad experience? Like, let's say, like, I don't know, lost a sibling in a car accident
Mhm.
or on a plane crash. Let's say you lost a sibling on a plane crash. How could you, find the benefit in that or neutralize that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So that's obviously an extreme example because these things happen.
Yes,
And of course,
yes, yes, yes.
you don't want to disregard the fact that yes, this thing is something that you may need to take time for. It's not about just being unemotional or not recognizing the thing that has happened. But
Of
it's just
course.
about obviously dedicating the time that you need to be able to comfort the people around you, to be able to take it in, to be able to see, okay, this is something that
Yeah.
happened. It's not
Process.
in my control. It's not in my control. I need
Yes.
to process it, and then
Yes.
obviously allowing yourself that time as well. But if
Mm,
you do sit down, the benefits of that situation are there, right? They may because the thing is when something like this happens, it's very easy to say this is a negative event because the brain only processes things in positive and negative. It doesn't care about like nuances. It's this is kind of good and this is kind of bad. It's like this is either good or bad,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when something like this happens, immediately it's like this overwhelming feelings, emotions, and everything that maybe you got the news on a day where there was all these other things happening, and then everything that is associated with that time in your life when you heard the news is now actually been grouped into being negative as well. So that means that has actually caused other charges to be created within that time frame where you got this news. So let's say we're going to head and we're going to focus on the main thing to actually balance that out. Well, what we would do what we would do is we would look at, okay, this thing happened. Obviously, I'm perceiving this as negative. So first of all, it's having the self awareness to be like, okay, this is something I'm perceiving to be extremely negative, but there is benefits here. I just really, really, really have to dig deep. So does it give you and we'll keep it simple. We'll just look at like, okay, does this give you a new love for life? Does this give you a new perspective on time? Maybe you've been wasting time. Maybe you haven't been doing things as fast and efficiently and you're kind of putting things off. Now you realize that life is short. How does this spring you into action? Well, what are the benefits that come from you springing into action faster? Well, you might get results faster. You might take more action. You might have more conviction. You might start seeing things for the way that they are and see things that, maybe things need to be done faster. Maybe you need to be more of a leader. Maybe you need to step up. See, it's all like these the benefits of the benefits of the benefits.
Mm.
You start looking at the perspective of, okay, what does this teach me about love? What does this teach me about people? Could I be more? Could I spend more time with my loved ones? Because I know time is now short. So you can see here that even just from those couple of things that I mentioned, that there's always another perspective, and it comes back to the polarity that you mentioned. So it's really being able to just see that, and then you can come into be like, okay, well, how can I take ownership over this, right? Owning the actual event itself and looking at, okay, this happened. I've now seen the different perspectives. How can I take action on something right now to be able to ease my mind to know that I'm taking action towards bettering this situation. So maybe that is comforting a loved one. Maybe that is going off and scheduling more family time. Maybe that is going off and making sure that you are present in all of your relationships and you're actively listening. And now you're taking this perceived negative, you're seeing the benefits, and you're actually making it turn into this thing that is now fueling you to be a better person. It's now affecting all of your relationships, and your life is going to be better because of it, because life is just happening for us at the end of the day. It's not happening to us, and we are in control if we allow ourselves to be,
Dude,
you know.
what an interesting perspective. What it's like, God. It, I feel like more people need to be able to do that exercise. I feel like that's very
Mm-hmm.
valuable. The reason why I asked that is because we had this conversation at dinner last night, and you know, one of the gentlemen that was there, he actually lost his father, um, and when he was very young. I think he was like 12 when that happened, and we were talking about neutralizing, you know, traumatic events, and his response was thinking about it like, you know, because that is obviously tragic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he was able to help neutralize it was having the perspective of, well, what if my whole entire family was wiped out in a plane accident? And I don't know how his pop
Mm-hmm.
passed away, but you know, just using
Mm-hmm.
that as like an example, he like took it to the extreme on that side and created like a what if scenario. Like, what if I lost everybody that I loved? How
Yeah.
would that have been? And it makes it so that, like, you know, what actually happened, it's like nowhere near. And you know, he's practicing gratitude, and he's like, I still have
Yeah.
all my siblings and my aunts and my uncles and my whole family, and I'm able, you know, he's able to like help him search for the benefits if he, you know, visualize like, well, what if like everybody was gone, I didn't have anyone, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that gratitude there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a
Absolutely.
healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now you have this newfound love that was more that's you know, more intense than it was before for the people who are still here, and you can be grateful for that, and that will help, you know, increase that relationship in different ways further, you know, further on down the line as well. So it's like, it's everything is just perspective, you know. And it's just
So true.
really comes down to being able to untangle these things, you know, and not just letting it take ownership over you and take away your power, you know. You being able to just be cause over the effect instead of being the effect of the cause, you know. I
Ooh.
think that's the way we really take ownership over what we do, you know, and what happens.
Ah. That's like, so is that related to like reacting versus responding? Can you
Yeah.
kind of explain that or break that cause and effect, right? Is that did I get that right? Did I process that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, right?
Because if something has happened in
Yeah.
our lives, then, you know, it's very easy to react to that. And if you're reacting to that, then you're being the effect of the cause that has happened. When really, this thing is just a neutral thing
Mm.
that has happened. So if we can kind of gather that perspective and be like, okay, well, how can I take this thing that has happened? Of course, it is what it is. You know, there's nothing that I can really do to change it. It's out of my power. It's out of my control. Well, how can I now take back this this power that it may feel like it's taking away from me, and go ahead and be cause over what's going to happen next, which is the effect. So let's say you take ownership over it, like we just talked about there. You have now become the cause of what is going to come from the like in the effect, which is, you know, more fruitful relationships, more appreciative of the people around you. You are now
Mm,
taking this energy that's coming towards you and you're turning it into something that you can create into something even better by not getting
mm.
reactive and not being like, oh my god, this thing is horrible, it's going to ruin my life, and then you're going into this just being effect to the world around you, you know. And it comes back to what you said there, which is being reactive instead of being responsive. Being responsive is, it would, I guess you could compare that to taking ownership over that situation, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We had another like wisdom gem that dropped over dinner too that I'd love to get your thoughts on.
Yeah.
You might have heard about this before. It was like a secret of life to be shared, like a
Mm.
hidden thing that actually works. So they said, the wise man said, whatever you feel like you think the world owes you, give that to the world.
Mm.
Give that
I love that.
thing to the world and you will get it.
Yeah.
And that applies to
That's
like,
so
let's say,
powerful.
oh, you feel like this person is being this. Let's say like the classic thing that like destroys relationships is like, oh, that person doesn't call me, so I'm not going to call them. Like you want to talk to them, right?
Mhm.
So if you feel like they owe you that, give that to the world and you will get what you want. And that applies to everything.
That's amazing, dude. That's super powerful. That's so powerful. It actually it actually reminds me of something I posted recently, which was I heard a quote. I think it was on an Ed Milet podcast where it was like, if you feel nervous or you feel fearful about something, turn your nervous into service, right? And I love the
That's cool.
simplicity of that because the same thing applies, right? It's like if you're feeling this fearfulness or this kind of anxiety towards something, and you feel like you can't do it or you can't, or you feel like there's barriers there, it's like turn that into service because I think this ties into what you said as well, which is like when we are what's the best way to put this? When we are focusing so much on ourselves, we remove the ability to actually contribute in the way and really, you know, get the things that we want because we're so focused on me and how can I benefit and how can I do this, or poor me. It's kind of like that you fall into that victim mentality a little bit, even if it's slightly, right? Whereas what you said
That's
there
right.
is like, instead of me feeling like, oh, this person's not texting me, you know, it's like you're feeling like victim, you're focusing on you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just
Yeah.
focus on almost service, almost like giving to the other person, giving that out, then that comes back to you and you start to reframe the whole situation and set the tone. So it's the same thing when it comes to if you're feeling fearful or anxiety or you're feeling like you can't do something, like turn that nervous into service. And a lot of our problems can be solved if we just take the focus off of ourselves and instead give to other people, you know? And I think that same thing applies. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. That's good too, bro. Turn your
Yeah.
nervous into service.
Yeah. I'm not
Mic
sure who
drop.
said it, but it's a good one. It's absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Like quit being a bitch. Turn your nervous into
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's gangster, dude.
That's gangster. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a
That
non-gangster
is.
statement, but it's so gangster.
Dude, it's so gangster, bro. Turn your nervous into service.
So
What's up? Come on
yeah,
now.
it's
That
almost like
sticks.
that you know, that sensitive rapper from the hood who's like really G, but like it's just like turn your nervous into service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
I
I
know.
love
I
it.
know. I know. I know.
I love that.
Oh, I know. Play lighthearted. So this is another thing too that's working really well. Obviously, when you can throw like humor
Mm,
into any situation, it's like great. Not everyone can
yeah,
do that, you
absolutely.
know? Like not
Yeah.
everyone has the same type of humor. That's what draws like certain people to, certain people. But if you can have like so this is another little like kind of circling back to some of the marketing stuff, when you can
Yeah.
like I see so many like if there are any other internet marketers or coaches that happen to stumble upon this video right here, or experts or consultants or whoever, I see so many coaches just like copying each other with like the Hermosi reels and like and everything, and I feel like, you know, it's almost like ad fatigue. Like people are just gonna like no, like we're late to the party. If you haven't done that already, like you're already probably too late to the party. It's not, and like it's probably the reason why you're not getting results, because you're just like playing catch up with everything. It's like people are used to seeing that. It's ad fatigue.
Yeah.
So something that I saw that worked really really well, um, and the reason why it works so well, I'll share in a second. Lightheartedness and playfulness, or adding humor into your messaging and your offer, and like as you speak to the
Hmm.
aspirations of what your ideal clients want, right? So it's not like your
Yeah.
niche
Yeah.
or the person or the, you know, the job title or whatever. Like when you're messaging who you want to attract, really just speak to the aspirations of how you help
Hmm.
people. Speak to the
Yeah.
aspirations of a former version of yourself in your messaging, and you will
Hmm.
attract your people. And then if you could do it in a
Yeah.
way that's like silly or pushing a boundary, or like, you know, you got some, you're bold in the way that you say it, if you can kind of like push the
Yeah.
edges, that
Absolutely.
that obviously will be polarizing in some respect, but good, you know.
Hmm.
um I just like, you know, I
Absolutely,
see
man.
some of my friends that are creating this like new angle of humanizing and making the messaging more relatable, right? We're humans running on these, you know, apps and scrolling, looking for meaning, looking for connection, looking for wisdom, looking to learn things. And I feel like that's just such a cool way to stand out, is if, you know, you could just like be
Yeah.
yourself. And if you think something's funny, like go for it, you know. But like
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one thing
Yeah.
specifically with like Arlen's offer that he created. It's I don't know if I want to go there right now because it's not mine.
Yeah.
But
Fair. Yeah.
is the lesson is to use humor in your messaging and in your marketing. Make it more lighthearted, make it more
Hmm.
playful. And I feel like when you do that, not only will you could attract the person that, you know, that you really want, but you could also just enjoy the process of doing it more,
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean,
right?
content creation is it's personal, right? It's a personal thing. And I mean, I was definitely guilty of this in the very beginning as well, just being
Yeah,
super rigid.
yeah.
You know, like I have to say this certain thing, and if I say this certain thing, then I will get the person to click the thing, and if they click the thing, they will follow the script, and then they will be able to buy the thing. It's like, yeah, cool. You know, there's that to an extent, but it's like we're human beings, and we there's all this like different type of communication that we have that is actually a lot of the time energetic through video, right? Like we don't have like the in-person being able to feel that, but you can feel stuff through video, man. I genuinely believe that you can feel someone's energy if they're actually, if they want to be making the video, or if they feel like they have to, the energy is going to be different, you know. So it's like, how can I be more authentic in myself? How can I obviously understand the hooks and all the marketing things that come with that, but really it just comes back to like, how can I be more authentic in myself? How can I enjoy the video that I'm making? Like, I'll tell you for a personal example of this, right? When I was running the agency and we were focusing on, like, it was all done for you marketing stuff. My content was super rigid, right? Because I was like,
Mm,
have to explain said process to be able to, for them to understand the mechanism. And I would be on those videos and I would just feel bored, you know. And this is one of the reasons why I kind of pivoted, because when I started to help guys and go into coaching and talk about mindset, man, I could stand there all day and talk about it, and I could sit there all day and research about it, and I could find these different things, and I would do that for free, and then that translated into the content that I made, and it felt more real, and I could stand up there and I could
mm,
talk about something. And of course, I had to be able to learn all the marketing stuff for it to actually make sense, and for people to actually watch stuff, which is just, you know, something I'm getting better at myself as well. But it's like,
yeah.
it feels better. It feels like light work. You know, you don't want things to be super, like, life doesn't need to be harder than it is. And I think we can really, really make things more difficult, you know? And a lot of that actually comes down to having an aligned offer, you know, something that you
Mm,
believe in, something that you're excited about, you know, and obviously that people want, you know, it's combining the two and finding that beautiful sweet spot in the middle, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. My
Yeah.
dad always used to say the people who succeed the most in life are the people who have the most fun. And that's not
Mhm.
like to talk about like, you know, the people that just like all they do is have fun and party and like, you know, it's like toxic, right? None of that. No, 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 no. If
Yeah.
you are living on the right side, the light side, okay, and you're having fun along the way, like if you're enjoying the process of the work, doesn't feel like
Hmm.
work, you're just in the process and you're present. You're not worried about the past. Okay, let's reflect, let's learn. You're not really anxious about the future. You're staying present, enjoying and focus
Yeah.
on the process. Dude, that is everything. Staying present
Yeah.
and
It's
falling
where
in
you
love
can
with the
tap
process.
into the energy of now, you know, what's happening now, being
Mm.
engrossed in something, being able to go into, you know, deep states of focus as well, obviously, because where you can get into flow state. I think that a lot of that stems from the thing, like, are you excited about the thing that you're working on, the thing that you're learning, the thing that you're creating, having that connected to, you know, just being able to, yeah, like you said, being able to stay present. And one thing that's really helped me with that is definitely like something like meditation, just having a daily mindfulness
Ooh,
practice. That's been super helpful with that. I think it's very
ooh,
easy to let your thoughts run wild, you know, and if you don't see them as kind of what they are, which is, I just like to reference them as passing clouds. You know, it's very easy to latch onto them and then get carried away in a different direction. Kind of comes back to what we said about emotional management, but being able to integrate that into my life has really helped to see them for what they are, step back out of them, and just see it as like, hey, this thought came. I don't really have to latch onto it. I can come back and stay in the present. And
mm,
it's almost like building the muscle of doing that has been super helpful for focus as well,
ooh.
you know?
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Good stuff, bro. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. I love our conversations. How
Me too.
about you?
Me too, bro. Me too. I feel great. I feel great. I still feel like I'm kind of flying high. There's nothing better than like taking action. You know, like honestly, bro, like deep down, I've been wanting to do stuff like this and share my message and, you know, put myself out there more. So just the act of
Hmm.
doing it, even though it's new, I know it's exciting, but just the act of doing it and taking
Hmm.
action just feels good, bro. It feels good to connect with like
Yeah.
like-minded, you know, people, and I really value that. You know, our chats are awesome, bro. Like we're always like just like trying to find the answers. You know,
That's it.
what's the truth? What is the
The golden
truth?
nuggets.
What are the how you doing over there on your side of the world? What gems did you pick up this week? I'm like, yo, I got some gems this week, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. That's it, man. You
I
can't
love
ignore
having
that.
conversations like that. It's like, what up? Like, you doing right? Like, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's really
Yeah.
cool what we're building, and um, yeah, bro, just like leveling up. I think there's nothing better than to like level up yourself,
Hmm.
level up others, and then level up yourself in the process. You know, like
Yeah.
you're just creating win-win scenarios.
Basically. Yeah.
I don't know. And I feel like that mentality is for like success-minded individuals. If you are a
Hmm.
success conscious individual, you will be attracted to learning universal truths so that you can better yourself. And I just feel like, you know, to quote Lil Wayne here for a second, he says, the higher I climb, I'm gonna totally fuck this up. Hold on, what is it? I've been saying this, dude. So I don't know if you're millennial, right? You're Gen Z. Tell me what's your birthday again?
I'm like right on the borderline. I'm right on the
Ooh, okay,
borderline.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're
It's
97
like
or
one side.
86.
97.
And you're from Ireland too. So you're 97. You're right on the border. Drop the world
Yeah.
lyrics. So I've been listening to this song over and over and over again. It's been connecting me with my like ghetto 17-year-old self. It's
Oh, let's
Drop the
go.
World by Lil Wayne and Eminem.
Oh, I love that tune,
You know
man.
that
I was
song?
a
It's like,
huge Eminem fan. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, dude, that song came out. It's like, if you ever need to like, yo, if you ever need to just get pumped up, you're just like, I'm just being a little bitch. I'm just being a little bitch. Like, I got to get to the gym.
Yeah,
Put on that fucking song, Drop the World by Lil Wayne and Eminem, and just like soak it in.
yeah,
Soak it
man.
in. They don't make songs like that. I got ice in my veins, blood in my eyes, hate in my heart, love in
So
my
good,
mind. Dude, it's so good.
man. I used to remember watching like all of those songs that came out around that time. They were all on like the music channels, and
Ooh,
I would religiously have that on in the background. Like, and the music
yeah,
videos were amazing. Like, it was like oh man, I forget about those times because I haven't done that
yeah.
in obviously so
You
long. Dude,
know, dude.
that's so good. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know that in that first verse by Lil Wayne, so he said this and he goes, the top gets higher the more that I climb. And I'm like, whoa. I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit. The spot gets smaller and I get bigger. Dude, like when he said
Oh,
that,
so good.
the top gets higher the more that I climb, I was like, what the fuck, dude? You said this in like
Yeah,
2006, 2007, and I was like, that's so true. So like you can
yeah,
only keep climbing. There's
exactly.
no
There's always another
stopping.
mountain. Yeah,
There's always
yeah.
another mountain. There's always another
Always
level,
another.
bro.
Yeah,
Dude, like
yeah.
going back to martial arts for a second, white, yellow, orange, green, red, blue, purple, brown, black. And then after black, it doesn't stop. You get your second degree black belt, your third degree black belt, your fourth degree black belt, your fifth, all the
Okay.
way up to 10th degree. And then even then you don't stop. Okay. So this just
Mm.
applies to everything. And I feel like, yeah, bro, the top gets higher the
Yeah,
more that you climb, no matter
one
what. And
hundred
just
percent, man.
accept it. Literally, it just accept that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's beautiful though because now you're working towards something that you'll never really achieve. So you'll never have to stop because man, I like
Mm.
have you heard of Buzz Aldrin? He's like the second guy that stepped foot on the moon after Neil Armstrong. He was like the
Oh,
guy that was with him, right? And
wow.
obviously his mission was to do that, was to step foot on the moon. Big vision, big mission. And when he accomplished that, he had nothing to live for.
Ooh,
And he fell into like alcoholism, and I'm not sure, I think he came out of that eventually, but
shit.
basically just like had no meaning, like no why, no meaning in life, and it felt like he had reached the top of the mountain and stopped looking up. You know,
Dude,
so
it's
it's like,
insane. It's insane.
yeah,
Look at what the greats do. Look at what the greats
hmm
do. Like Tom Brady. Eminem is one of the greats, right? Like
yeah,
even the
of
guys that are
course,
still in it. Like I was bumping Gucci Mane in my whip today, dude. Gucci Mane is still making fire fat
yeah, he is,
beats.
dude. Yeah, yeah,
That's something I've
man,
loved to do my whole life, just like bumping in the whip.
yeah,
Like that's like what I do.
absolutely.
It's just like what I just bump in the Jeep with, and I've been
LA
bumping
vibes, man.
since like
LA.
16. With now like LA vibes in the Jeep bumping, but I used to bump on Long Island. Okay, I used to like heavy
Let's
bump
go,
with all
let's
my
go.
friends, and
Yeah.
dude, like so I'm still bumping Gucci 2024, and it's like how Gucci Mane is still doing this. Like Gucci's a
Mm,
goat. I just love Gucci. His energy is insane. Like
yeah, man.
next level. Just fat beats, and I just
Fat
think about
beats.
that, and it's like you have your own like. Imagine you have that same vibe, for like two
Mm,
decades or more, and it's like you just keep on that wave. You listen to like Fabulous, or you listen Fabulous. You listen to Gucci Mane. Eminem switch up his swag like a little bit as well, but like I just like
yeah,
the people that fucking know themselves and they stick with it and they stick with doing it. Like Tom Brady's like he won how many Super Bowls? He's still going. He's still going. He's still going.
yeah. Still on it.
That's the way. That's the way.
Yeah, literally,
Just
man.
bump like
Literally,
Gucci your whole life.
that's it.
I will be listening. I will be listening to Gucci, dude, when I'm 75, 80, if he's
I
still
believe
around.
it too. I would believe that, dude. Actually, this would be an interesting question. What if you had to put one thing, one quote, one saying, anything at all? If you could put one thing on a billboard for the whole world to see, every single day, what would that be? Just while we're on this,
Level up.
love it,
Level up.
love that.
What's the next level?
Yeah,
Level up. Like, what's the next level? What's the next? You know, it's like you gotta find the reasons to keep freaking going.
yeah, 100%. I love that.
How
I think I would
does
have.
that? What do you feel? What about you?
Similar, but what the first thing that came to mind was stop looking, start listening.
Mm,
And I think in relation to like what kind of everything that we've talked about, it's like you already know the answers, and knowing yourself, like because you said know thyself, right? That was Socrates. It's like
mm.
when you know yourself, you have the answers. And I think for a lot of the time, it's so easy for us to just think that it's somewhere. We have to go buy this thing. We have to ask this person. And of course, there's a place for that. And mentors and coaches are also important in that process. But a lot of the time, if we can listen to what we truly what that voice is saying inside of us, our intuition, your gut feeling, right? Start listening more to that, you
Ooh.
get a lot of the answers that you need. Yeah.
I'm really
So
happy you
level
brought
up.
this up. Actually,
Yeah.
level
Level up,
up.
start or stop looking, start listening.
That's like
Put
that's
that
like
on
the
the
message from Jesse Cat. Like I feel like I could look back at this video like 30 years from now and be like, yeah, yeah, level up. Like I could probably I'll be aligned with that forever. Level up. It's
yeah.
just what I've done, what I do, what I always challenge other people to do. Like, what's the next level? What's the next level? Like you gotta just keep fucking going.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
To
Keep
your
pushing.
point with the intuition, this was a crazy gem that I downloaded yesterday as well, and I might have heard this in a
Mhm.
video somewhere. So know thyself is directly related to your intuition, but what really is your intuition? Do you know what it is? I
Mm,
heard this analogy
that's
of what intuition was, and it like fucking blew my mind.
interesting. Yeah, go
So
for it, man. Yeah, yeah.
so your intuition. So let's say, oh God, I don't want to use the same analogy that I heard because I definitely did hear this in a video. So your intuition is actually yourself in the future. So, you know, time is an illusion. You've heard of that before, right? This is why we
Hmm.
stay present, right? We challenge
Yeah.
ourselves to stay present. It's hard to do, right? There's the past, the present, the future. Your intuition is actually a former version of yourself in the past. It's also a future version of yourself. So let's say
Interesting.
you get invited to go somewhere and your gut feeling is that you do not want to go. You're like, nah, that's, and then you're kind of like, you know, they're pulling on your heartstrings. You feel bad, like, you know, don't want to, you know, disappoint your friends. And, you know, you wind up going anyway. And then you're out and you're tired, you're exhausted, you wind up not having a good time. And then you go back home, you're like, why the fuck did I do that? Now you're exhausted the next day, right? So your
Hmm.
intuition is actually a future version of yourself giving you a warning that
Yeah.
to not go. And if you ignore
Yeah.
your intuition, you pay the price. But if you listen to your intuition, what happens is you wind up building a stronger connection to that voice, which is the future version of you. And that is just literally like your intuition of like what is going to happen like 2 hours later. Well, what about your
Mm.
intuition for what can happen tomorrow or this weekend? And I feel like the more you communicate and listen to your intuition, you actually build a stronger relationship with your intuition and you're able to go out further and connect
Wow.
with your spirit from the future. That's like, hmm, what's life going to be like in a year from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now? Is he the one? Is she the one? Is this a lifelong friend? Am I meant to live here forever?
Mm.
Is this aligned? You know,
That's
like,
powerful.
and then you go deep, you expand it. And this is just like, again, I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
that analogy was just introduced to me yesterday. And I thought that that was like the coolest analogy
Yeah, I
for
like it.
listening and knowing yourself.
Yeah. 100%. And I
That's
guess
sick.
it's something that It's so, man, that's so sick. Because I mean, some people would reference intuition to be God, right?
Hmm?
Which could also be a higher version of yourself, could also be your future self, a more desired
Hmm?
version of yourself, a new identity that you're trying to listen more to. And it's fascinating that you mentioned that it's, it can be a past version and a future version. And I kind of have this analogy, which is like the two different wolves, right? That are kind of
Yep.
fighting each other constantly, which is like one of them is going to keep
Yep.
you stuck in
Yep.
that current action, that current identity. Maybe you're not where you want to be. And if you keep listening to that, then you won't be able to move forward. And you have this other wolf, which is like, let's say a higher version, a future version of you, which has the stuff that you want, which lives the life that you want. And it's like, which one do you feed?
Mm.
And it's like, which one do you listen to? Same kind of thing, right? And the more that you feed the right one, the more that you build that relationship within yourself, and then you become that, because you're listening to that rather than listening to this other voice. I guess you could compare it to the angel and the devil. Like there's all of these
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
comparisons, but I think it's all
Yeah.
saying the same thing. Like
Yeah.
but that's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I think about like going back to the analogy of like, okay, present, past, and future. Like, so what that means is
Hmm.
that your present self could actually be like right now, we could be communicating with a past version of ourself. Like the version of
Hmm.
ourself last week, last month, last year, 15 years old. I swear to God, bro, when I was 17 years old, living at my mom's on Long Island, New York, I had a clear picture of like living in a corner unit here in LA with like a view of LA with like palm trees in the background. And that's like my view. Now,
Beautiful. I
but
love
I
that.
never even went to LA. I just visualized it back then. I might have seen some pictures back
Yeah.
then. But like what this means is that the version of Jesse right now, that the what I'm seeing right now is what I saw when I was 17.
That's so incredible.
So
That's
when you
like,
build, when you listen to
yeah.
your future, when you're in the present right now and you listen to the future version of yourself, aka your intuition, let's say, let's call, God, right? Spirit,
Hmm.
one, we are one with everything. I love that analogy. I'm obviously, I'm really
Yeah.
spiritual and I have like
Yeah.
a lot to say about that without getting too into religion right now.
Hmm.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll cover that topic at some point. If you
Topic for another day.
start building your relationship right now with the future version of yourself, I feel like that's like a huge level up.
Yeah.
Because imagine like
Yeah.
if you can connect and see what you will be seeing in the future, you start seeing it now. And I actually feel like the visualization, like you can be creative with your visualization. Let's say you're manifesting. There are three ingredients to manifesting. I read this in the book from the Rosicrucians, in the Cycles book that I love to talk about so much. Three ingredients to
Hmm.
manifestation, which is imagination, concentration, and focus. Actually, Jesus, that's not it. Hold on one sec, brother. This is so freaking good because it relates to this. I
Cool,
actually
cool.
posted this on my Instagram.
But yeah, but there's been
Let's see
so
if
many
Opus
times in
Pro
my
can
life
do
where
it.
things have just came into my life from a vision, from just like having that image in my mind. While you're searching for that, there's been one time in particular. I think it was in 2019. I was like, I want to live in Lisbon, Portugal. Like, I just want to live there, and I had this kind of constant vision in my mind. I'd never been there before, knew
Ooh,
nobody there. And then the following year, I ended up dating this girl who was moving to Lisbon, and I was like, that's strange. Kind of popped up, Again, it's like it just popped up, and it's just interesting that that happened. And then a year later, in that whole time frame, I had like started my business, signed a couple of clients, things were going well, and I was living in Lisbon. And it's just like, I don't
there
know,
you
you can call it
go.
coincidence, but you can call it like you're creating that. Like, and I've done this with so many different things, man. It's just incredible, like what that does. And it's like, of course, I'm always like staying grounded and like, we got to do the stuff. We got to clear the charges. You got to do all that work as well,
Yes,
right? And do the
yes,
stuff. It's like
yes,
the action.
yes,
But then
yes.
there's like this unseen force that's there, and tapping into that and balancing those two things, man, that's a powerful place to be. That's a powerful place to be.
Yeah, dude, that is a prime example of this analogy and this exercise. So I found it. This is what they said it was, and I'm going to see if I can tie it into what I was talking about before about the intuition. So the Rosicrucians love to talk about prayer, manifestation. Cycles is just one part of it. So Rosicrucians, it's like
Mhm.
mysticism, a hidden society of men that studied like the hidden truths and the secrets of the universe is mysticism. I'm really interested
Love it.
in the topic of mysticism. This is like, what happens before birth? What happens after death? They talk about reincarnation, right? They talk about
Mhm.
like everything that's like, in the ether, in between like our internal world and the external world. Like, what is the unseen? They study this stuff. And I know how accurate the 7 cycles are. So I feel like these other topics that they have studied for thousands of years are also accurate as well. The only way to know is to
Mhm.
try to test it, and trust your intuition, see if there's truth with it. So they talk
Yeah.
about, there's a whole chapter on prayer, which isn't, praying to like Jesus or praying to God. It's like learning how to cultivate positive energy and send that to other people or send that to yourself, like healing energy, okay, that you can send to other people telepathically, right? So they do talk
Mhm.
about like how to heal yourself, how to heal other people, um, all the different types of clairvoyance,
Mhm.
seeing
Yeah.
well, hearing well, tasting well, hearing people's thoughts, reading people's minds, telepathy, right? So when they
Mhm.
talked about prayer, they gave a whole analogy of actually how to pray and manifest in a setting. So it's like a meditation exercise. And what they said to do was this. So if you're meditating and you want to manifest something, they said to sit down in a quiet space, relax your breath, and just get yourself into a calm state of mind where you're really just focusing on your breath for a little bit to slow down your heart rate. Now, what they said to do was visualize like you're seeing a giant white movie screen in the sky. So your eyes are closed, but you're picturing this like giant white screen the size of Jupiter in the sky. It's totally white and bright. You
Mhm.
focus on that screen. Then you visualize an image, one image that you want to see. It could be the future house you want to live in. It could be the car that you want to drive. It could be the love of your life. It could be the kids, your future family,
Yeah.
right? The places that you want to travel to, the things you want to see. It's got to be one image, and you can't do too much at once. One image that you project onto that screen, and you only focus on that image for as long as possible with no other thoughts coming into your mind to distract you. This
Mhm.
is obviously very, very hard to do. So they said the ingredients for prayer are 3 things: visualization, imagination, and then concentration. So visualizing is
Yeah.
visualizing that white screen. Imagination is imagining the thing that you want to manifest. It's got to be real too. So
Mhm.
this isn't like,
Yeah.
it can't all be positive. This is another little secret that I got last night from the guys too.
Interesting.
When you're manifesting, like you actually have to manifest the positive and the negative that's associated with that positive,
I love that. Makes a
the
lot of sense
real,
from what we referenced. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Because now it's real.
Right.
Because otherwise, the brain will be like, if it's all positive, then that's just like an imaginary thing. Because in reality, everything has both sides. Fascinating.
Yes. So the third was
Yeah.
concentration, right? Being able to focus and concentrate on one image for as long as you possibly can. So you got this white screen, you got the image of what you want, you've
Mhm.
imagined it and it's there, and now you're focusing on it, and now you're concentrating on it. Now concentrate on that and only that, with no other thoughts that come into your mind when you first start to do this. And I've practiced this, I've done this exercise. It's really, really hard in the beginning, but like anything that you
Yeah.
learn in life, like any skill, like walking, like talking, like listening, like writing, like you can train your brain to concentrate better and focus
Yep.
on one thing, and that's a muscle, right?
Yep.
Then once you're like, you have that locked and loaded in your mind, you take that image that's on that white screen and you visualize as if it goes like this. You swallow it into your brain
Wow.
and into your body, and then you
Love
get
that.
up and you walk away and you don't think about it until the next time you do it.
Detachment.
Detach
Yeah.
from it, gone. It's like, boom, you take it, you swallow it into your mind. Like, that's the act of it. It's like, boom, absorb it, and then boom, it's totally out of your mind.
Gone.
If you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about, see,
Yeah.
people think that manifesting is thinking about the thing that they want to manifest all the time. Well, that's like leaky bucket vibes. If you keep thinking about the thing
Mm.
over and over and over and over again, you were leaking the energy that you just created to try to manifest it. It's like,
Yeah. You're
no
needing it.
bueno. You're like,
You're
you're
needing it. That's the thing. You know,
yeah, yeah,
start to become
yeah.
attached to it a little
It
bit.
weakens it. It weakens
Yeah.
the power of what you
Makes
just
sense.
did.
Yeah.
It's
Man,
powerful, man.
that's a really powerful exercise. Because
Try it.
you described it really well. You know, you described it really well because I think visualization it's something I've done a lot of. Actually comes back to what I mentioned when it comes to meditation and mindfulness. Because what I do is I see my thoughts for what they are, but I'm constantly refocusing. So like because your mind just gonna get distracted, but the meditation practice is building the muscle of getting distracted, and the faster you bring it back to focusing on your breath, the stronger that muscle gets. So it's the same thing when it comes to concentration on
Mm,
the visualization, because the more you build that muscle, the more you're able to focus on the one thing. When you get distracted or sidetracked, you can bring it back and refocus and reconcentrate on that thing. So that's a really simple 3 step way to do it. So I like the way you broke that down, because sometimes visualization can be like think about it and it will come through, and it's a bit abstract. Whether that's like a 3 step
yeah,
process, detaching from it, let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. You
yeah,
know, I love
yeah.
that.
I love the way that they explain that, like as an exercise, with how they said like the first step is to visualize like a giant white screen that's just covering the entire sky. I feel like that's pretty easy to imagine and
Yeah,
visualize
yeah,
when your eyes are
yeah.
closed, because what happens is like you have all these thoughts come in, you have all these other images that come in, but I feel like that's a pretty easy, nice, like a huge movie screen that's just covering the whole entire sky. It's so
Hmm.
white and bright. I think that's pretty easy to do. And then the next step is to like pick a topic or visualize and imagine. um, that's harder to do, and obviously the concentration on that one image is the hardest thing to do. Because we have
Hmm.
how many thoughts that come in through our mind all day, every day. It's like what, 90,000 thoughts come into our mind per day.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
what
and
that's accurate.
the majority of them are subconscious as well.
Yeah.
So like unrepeated from the day before. You know, so that's again a whole other topic. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, it's
Mm.
yeah, that's I love that. I love that. And like, what would you say? Because I like the way you got specific with the actual image itself, and we talked about the positives
Mm.
and the negatives. So
Ooh.
like instead of seeing, let's say you're doing it with money, for example, or business success or whatever what that thing is, instead of
Okay.
seeing it
Yeah.
as you're on a yacht and there's tons of supermodels around and everything is perfect and you're popping bottles, like instead of seeing it that way, which is kind of like this infatuation of everything is perfect, instead looking at it as like, okay, well, what does maybe even going through like a daily routine or a morning
Okay.
routine of when you are successful and what that kind of looks like and the reality of it. You're not every day isn't perfect. You're going to be working, you're going to be doing stuff, but how do you feel, I guess? What does it look like? Who's with you? You know, do you get a phone call and you're like, you know what, maybe you got a situation where a client needs your help with something, and it's like you need to like change up your schedule, and like that's kind of like the way I see it, grounding yourself in reality, but it's a reality that you would have better problems than you would have in the realities you have now, for example. Would
Ooh.
that be the
Ooh.
best way to approach that? Do you think? I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. I'm not sure, because it's like, how, like this is the challenge. So like basically the rule is you can't manifest something that's like not real. Like, you, if you visualize like
Mhm.
flying off of a cliff, it's not, it's not reality.
Defying
It's not
gravity.
real. Yeah, like defying
Yeah.
gravity and the law of, it's just not, like, it's not going to happen. But then it's like, maybe
Yeah.
like, you know, if you actually visualize that, like, you know, 15 years from now, it's like you're actually flying off a cliff, but a jetpack's with you, and that you're doing it with a jetpack,
Who
you know?
knows?
So there
That's
could be
it.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
some truth with it. You know, the other side of this is like, you know, when people have fears, oh God, this is how people actually manifest what they don't want. It's by
Mm,
thinking of the thing that they don't want to happen. They actually create the thing that they don't want to happen just by thinking of it. It's like, oh, I
yeah.
always lose my watch. Someone always steals my shit, or someone always steals my laptop, or some whatever. It's like, no one's ever stolen anything from me. That's not ever a thought that ever comes in my mind, ever. But
Hmm.
because you have those thoughts come into your mind, that's why, like, you've gotten your laptop stolen 3 times out of your car.
Yeah.
So,
It's like this
right,
underlying
or
belief that like people steal from me.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Or I have,
Yeah.
you know, some associates of mine that, like, I know deep down that their fear, like, they work so hard, is because their fear is that they're going to run out of money.
Hmm.
That's a pretty common fear of a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
So,
And that's where we kind of come back to what we were talking about
yeah,
before, which is clearing these charges, right? Clearing the fear of, let's say, being broke. Well, what are the benefits from being broke? Well, you don't have to worry about taxes, probably. You don't have to worry about the stress of a team or a business. So it's like when you can bring that back to equilibrium and not have this fear, it's like you're again seeing both sides of the equation and seeing it for what it is, which is like not good or bad, you know? So it kind of comes
wow,
back to that. Then you can clear those fears, and then you can stop
yeah,
bringing situations like that into your life because you're not focused on the fear of it. You're focused on probably just the goal that you're moving towards and the actions that you're taking each day. So I guess that's how we can tie those two together, you know?
yeah, thousand percent. Yeah, it's maybe like thinking about the positives and thinking about the negatives of the thing that you want to manifest, almost like doing the neutralization exercise. I don't know, I haven't tried this, man. I've actually only done that one specific exercise that I read in the book. I was basically in Mexico with my dad. 2023, we were celebrating his birthday with my stepbrother, my girlfriend, and I'm on the beach. And I'm like reading this part of the
Nice.
book, and I sat down and I did the white screen visualization. And the picture that I pictured at the time was, I wanted to go into my Pay Simple account on, one of my merchant accounts that I have for my business. And at the time, I
Mm-hmm.
was like scaling up my ads, and I was like having like record months, and it's going amazing. And I'm on vacation with my dad in Mexico celebrating his birthday. It's great. I'm visualizing. I wanted to have like my
Amazing.
first 100K month. So the picture that I was seeing was like me refreshing my screen on my Pay Simple account. I don't use Stripe, not right now. It was my Pay Simple screen dashboard, and I was actually visualizing 200K on that
Nice.
screen. Now, here's the truth. I didn't hit 200K. I hit 130 gross in March of 2023 last year, and 90K cash collected. It was
Beautiful.
still the highest month that I've ever had.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't the exact number, I feel like it did something. you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I, that was what I chose. I wanted to, because I was looking at that number a lot, right? Like every week, every
Hmm.
day, taking screenshots. I was like, I want to see it. I want to see it at 200. So
I love it, man.
it'll hit
I
that
love
one
it.
day. It's just a matter of time. I think it's a way to help
Yeah.
you level up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
Because
I think more
you know,
volume.
when you see
That's
that,
the answer.
yeah, yeah. When you see that, then you're like, your actions start to like align with that. And you realize that you obviously take ownership over the fact that, hey, I got to level up. I got to change some things. I got to do some things a little bit differently if
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. And it all kind of leads into each other. And this is why, I guess, like you said, detaching from that originally allows you to just take the actions, focus on doing the stuff because you're not just, focus on it all the time. So yeah, man, there's an unseen force there as well, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
The other thing was too, if you combine that whole analogy, and then, yeah, you can't just you can't just like sit around all day and just visualize, right? You actually have to put
Mhm.
action behind it. So that is a very energy infusing type of an exercise that will propel you to take action and do the thing that you know that you want to do. The challenge is that,
Exactly.
when the universe or God gives you that energy, the energy gets misused. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell this analogy in the book. It's called Wisdom of the Mystic Masters by Joseph R. Reed is the author of the
Love it.
book. But he says that, like, let's say when the universe gives you this energy, now you're supposed to go take action and do the thing with enthusiasm. It's another
Mm-hmm.
little secret trick. Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That word right there is so powerful. That word was like ingrained in me as like a young kid, right? Like a 5-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing our ki eyes and we're doing our strikes in the dojo in our little ninja uniforms. And like my sensei is like telling us to yell when we're screaming. He's like, "Ugh!" You know, like you like
I love it.
enthusiasm, man, you know,
Yeah.
like you put your enthusiasm into your technique in martial arts. You put
Yeah.
your enthusiasm into the action behind the thing that you know
Yeah.
you need to do to
Yeah.
level up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And it
that's the
makes
thing,
such a
the
difference. The energy
challenges.
fueling the work is it matters. It matters so
Bro,
much. Yeah. Yeah.
people, this is specifically a huge freaking problem with men misusing the energy that is given to them is, and they use this example in a book, but like this book is from like the 1940s, and they use this one example of this guy that's just like, man, I just want to, I want this new job. I want this new job. I want this new job. Right.
Mm.
And how come I'm not getting it? And they talked about his problem of like going through and cycling through all these women and dating all these women, right? He's dating this woman, he's dating this woman, he gets this girlfriend, he gets this girlfriend, he gets this girlfriend. You know, and I'm reading between the lines. Okay. And I'm realizing that this guy is misusing his energy
Mm-hmm.
by dating all of these girls and getting caught up in their life and their problems and taking care of them. And it's like cycle after cycle. You know how many men like go through this
Mm-hmm.
cycle of dating
Yeah.
and dating the same chick over and over and over and over again. And then you sit around, you wonder why you're stuck for 2 years or 3 years. It's because you're
Mm-hmm.
misusing the energy. And you're like, now it's like, oh, well, that doesn't work. Well, it's like, dude, like God's just like, bro, I sent a birdie to you like 7 times over the last 18
Yeah.
months. And
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time I sent the birdie over to you, you scared the birdie away. So guess what? The birdie ain't going to want to
Yeah.
come around to you anymore until you
Yeah.
start listening to the
Yeah.
freaking little birdie.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
bros, especially I see here in LA, like just getting caught up in the cycle of women, just like, you know, misusing their sexual kung fu energy vibes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know, that's like, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of some of the bros and the holistic bros, like they talk about like semen retention and all that stuff. That's why I
Yeah.
believe you have one woman. One woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Haley's my rock. She's my best friend. With her for 4 years now. Crazy. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had the
Yeah,
most
man.
success that I've ever had in my whole life, only having one woman in my life. Like I did that in college, like been there, done that. And like that was like the time in my life where I was the most lost. Because I was
Yeah,
chasing
man.
that, like,
I
you know,
can
validation and that
definitely
and that,
resonate that. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So true. So true. I mean, I even yeah, just from what you said there, man. Even looking back, like my history of like going through different relationships, things like that, it's just chaos, you know, because there's so many things that you can't predict. You get caught up in different things, and I've always made the best progress even either like alone and focusing on what I'm
Mm,
doing, and maybe having someone I'm kind of seeing. Maybe it's not incredibly serious, but there's like something in my life, for
mm-hmm,
example,
mm-hmm,
um, or there's just one woman, right? Things are more simple. Your needs get met. You have a kind of a partner to share, have fun with, and all these different things, and you still get to focus on your mission, your vision, and what you're doing and what you're actualizing. And I think there's just so much power in that, because at the end of the day, it can be just a massive distraction from your mission, from what you're here to do.
yeah,
You put that off long enough, man. It kind of comes back to what you said, but like you have to keep learning the same lesson over and over and over and over again until you learn it. And then when you learn it, things blow up, things explode because you've learned the lesson. I think that's an example of that for sure. Definitely was
bro.
for me anyway.
Yes. The lesson and the
Yeah.
message is to listen to the little birdie,
Yeah.
aka your intuition. Listen
I
to
love
it. Don't
that.
ignore it.
Mm.
You know, stay blind to them haters, okay? But don't stay blind
Block out them haters,
to
bro.
you. Yeah, bro. Like that, like stay blind to them haters, man. Them haters don't matter. Just stay blind to them and stack up your paper, right? Stack up your paper so high so you got that skyscraper paper.
I
You know,
love
and
it.
then you up
Skyscraper
so high, them
paper.
haters, yeah. Stack up your paper so high so them haters can't see you. You
Amen.
stay blind.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love when New York Jesse comes out.
Shit. I love connecting with New York Jesse, man. I ran away from
Yeah,
him for
man.
a while, but he's back. He's bumping Gucci.
He's
And
bumping Gucci. He's bumping
I
Gucci.
actually feel like Haley really brings out my East Coast. And
Yeah,
I feel like all my bros here in LA are East Coast. Like even the new people that I'm meeting. Even like Greg, like, you
interesting.
know, Gallagher he's from Toronto. That's like East Coast vibe. Like it's like all my homies are East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of cool. And I got my LA bros too,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like that
Is there much difference
similarity.
in like culture in terms of East Coast, West
Um,
Coast? I know like difference. I mean, I know like the US is one place, but it's a big, big place, right? So it's like, is
yeah.
it much different from like East Coast, West Coast, culture
Oh,
wise, people?
thousand. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I
Yeah.
was just saying this today. I like East Coast people out in LA because it's
Mm.
like it's refreshing realness. Like East Coast, you definitely get the real. It's like, I always love to use this analogy. If you're on the East Coast, like how I was raised, so my high
Mm-hmm.
school had over 3,000 kids in it. There was like my district was huge. We had 5 elementary schools, we had 2 junior high schools, and we had a big ass high school with like 1,000 plus kids per grade. 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th. Not 9 through 12. We were 10, 11, 12. So there was like
Mm-hmm.
so much competition amongst like the men with sports. We were League One, Division One, so we were like the best in lacrosse, best in wrestling, football.
Yeah.
The women's lacrosse was crazy. Like it was so competitive. So you had to. It was like you're thrown to the wolves. It's like you're
Yeah.
nobody or you're like an athlete and you're whooping ass.
Mm-hmm.
So that really definitely shaped my character. Like being in a like dog eat dog East Coast high school. It was also like a very privileged high school too. So it was like a very good school district that I was in. Thank God. I
Yeah.
was blessed for that. Um, but on the East Coast, I always like to say that like people will let you know if they like you, and they'll also let you know if they don't like you, and they'll say it to your
Mm.
face. Like they will be
Nice.
like, "I don't like you. Get the fuck out of my
Yeah.
face." Like they're very abrasive and aggressive. They say what's on their mind. There's no filter. So it's more of this like
Wow.
direct, masculine, combative energy. Like so many of the girls were ghetto back in the day. The girls used to be
Interesting.
savage. Yeah, like
Yeah.
and honestly, that masculine energy with like girls isn't really that attractive to me. So like, there's a lot of the ghetto
Yeah.
girls that were just like, eh. Anyway, I digress.
But like, man, the world needs more of that. The world needs more of that kind of directness, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
being from Ireland, I feel like people are more direct than they are in other parts of the world for sure. I know myself anyway. I do like to be direct. I think it's just an easier way to communicate
yeah,
rather than beating around the bush. If there's something off and it feels off, I don't like it. We'll just address it
mm,
straight up, and then we can go from there. It just makes more sense because we can get around it, move on, and all these things. Instead of
yeah.
passive aggressive or not understanding, it's this weird energy. Not a fan of it.
Yeah,
You
say
know.
what's on your mind. That's the thing with LA. And
Yeah.
here's the beauty that I also liked when I first came to LA. So like when I was on the East Coast, too much of East Coast people from my perspective, it's almost like too much of that energy. It's like I had to get like away from that. And it's not just for this reason. It's obviously for many life reasons and growth reasons and experiences and opportunities.
Yeah.
But when I came to LA, I noticed that a lot of the guys were not confrontational at all, which was kind of a breath of fresh air to
Hmm.
not have that like combativeness, you know? Like it
Yeah.
was kind
Every
of
time.
refreshing. But then at the same time,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a lot like they're kind of like pushovers. So like they won't say what they really feel to avoid that confrontation because they're not combative. They'll just either get walked on or they won't say how they really feel and a lot of resentment will build up and it's
Yeah.
there's again the law of polarity. There's not one of the best way to be. You can learn from both.
for
cultures
sure.
from both sides of the states.
Yeah.
You know, you could let things go that aren't really like a big deal, you know, and if it's something that you do really care about, like you can address it, share the truth, share what's on your mind. And look, like not everyone is everyone's cup of tea. And
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think
yeah,
it's important to be okay with that as well.
yeah, yeah,
Because that's where it kind of comes from, right? If you're feeling like you have to be a certain way to get people's approval, you're trying to. Because I know I'm definitely guilty of this in the past, man. Where it's like you try to fit everybody's model of what they think you should be, and that
mm,
leads to being inauthentic when you're within yourself. Cause a lot of conflict in your own self and your own
yeah,
persona, right?
yeah,
And it's like
yeah.
just being okay with the fact that some people are just gonna not vibe with you, and that's absolutely fine, right? Because you can't be everybody's cup of tea. Because the life
I
of
know,
teabag is draining.
I know. I know. I have this thing
Uh,
that happens when I talk with my dad, and I really love my dad's feedback because he's
yeah.
always like, you know, keeping me on the path. When's your next rank? When's your next level up? When are you doing this? Like, you know, he's just always on top of me no matter what, which is cool. But he like anytime like I'll curse or something, he'll be like, "You want to be above board. You don't want to curse." And you know, and I appreciate that because like, you know, I do want to be received and perceived in a way that's like, you know, professional and mature and, you know, but then there's also that
Mm,
side of me that's like, I love
fuck
Gucci.
that.
I love bumping fucking key Glock in my whip, you know, and like that's me, you know. So so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
shit. How do I please my dad? And you know, it's like fuck. Like
yeah.
I'm still trying to rattle with this with
I mean, there's a time. I guess a time and a place for some things, but I think,
yeah,
like, because like cursing in Ireland
yeah,
is just a way of speaking. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it's just from my experience, it's just a part of the way we speak, the way we communicate. It's always been like
yeah,
that. It's I've never had a second thought, but I know in the US it's a little bit different. People don't see it the same way. It's like almost seen as aggressive or something like that. But I think it's a way to express how you feel about something, and I think
yes.
there's so much emphasis that you can put on words when you use those things, and not in a way where you're doing it at somebody, but you're doing it as just a way of expression. I think that's the best way to use it. You know what I mean? If it just comes
Yeah,
naturally, not at somebody, but just in a way to communicate.
yeah, yeah.
Actually,
I
one
feel like
one minute, man, because i
authenticity.
just I
Yes.
just realized that my computer's on 5%, so just give me 1 second. Let me switch
Sure,
over.
brother. Sure, brother.
Give
Hey,
me
we
one
could wrap
second.
it up soon too. It's also getting just a little late here. I have to eat some food. I
Yeah,
haven't
no
eaten
worries.
yet today. Gotta get
Well, do you
jacked.
know what we'll do, man? We'll probably just call it there then,
Let's
instead of
wrap it.
like,
Yeah, bro.
we'll wrap it. But yeah,
Dude, that
dude,
was awesome.
amazing,
Wow.
amazing to catch up. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing conversation. We're gonna have plenty more of these as well. So because there's so much stuff that we didn't dive into,
Oh yeah.
and
I know. We just
like
went for
we,
2
we
hours
only
and
like got to like the tip of the iceberg. So
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
incredible,
yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. That was awesome, bro.
I'm actually thinking we could even do some sort of a show, man. If this kind of like if we can do this every 2 weeks, like we're going to say, we'll see how it goes, and we'll see like can we turn this into something. I don't know. Who knows where it'll go? That's what I'm kind of
Bro,
thinking. Like
I'm
who
with
knows?
it. I'm with it. I'm
Yeah.
all about it. Say yes to life. Okay? Say yes
Yeah.
to life. That's
Say
the
yes to
way,
life,
bro.
man. Say like, yeah, yeah.
Say
That is
yes.
the way.
You know?
I love
I
it.
don't know. You can go
I
through
love it, man.
seasons of saying no, right? Fuck that, fuck that, fuck
Yeah,
that,
for
you
sure.
know? But then there's also seasons of yes.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like know how to ride the wave a little bit. I'm on that yes, yes vibe.
Hmm.
Especially if it is in alignment with like what I'm trying to do. I got a lot of shit to say and I don't want to hold it in anymore. So I appreciate
Exactly.
you for being here. And I feel like, you know, we can get some feedback and dude, we'll chop all this up. We'll make some episodes and that this is just the tip of the iceberg, bro. My goal is to get
Yeah,
you out
bro.
here to LA and you ain't
Yeah,
even know
man. I
it.
will
But
do
now
it.
you do.
We'll figure that out. Will do.
Yeah,
Will
dude.
do.
Yeah. Either
Bumping
way.
Gucci.
We're gonna bump some Gucci, okay? And I'm gonna find you a nice girl from the East Coast, okay? Like a real girl, and
Sounds
then we'll
good.
get your
Sounds good.
visa, and then you'll be set, bro.
I love it. Love it.
That was the topic of conversation yesterday because we had a couple Canadians with us, and I think Canada is a little bit different
Hmm.
with their visas. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. We'll find you a
I love it,
nice,
dude. I love it, dude.
nice Brazilian girl who's East Coast who like will cook you paleo breakfast and eggs in bed. We'll manifest that,
Sounds good.
right?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Let's go.
Right,
Let's go. Let's put a plan together, man.
dude, dude, that's possible. That's realistic, right?
100%, man. I'm
Yeah,
100% down for that. Yeah, yeah. I can see it already. Hmm.
that there's some truth to that. Okay.
Absolutely, man. I mean, over in Asia, I mean, it's been like that. Like, I mean, I can
Yeah,
imagine it's similar in some ways over there because it's been awesome over here in terms of
yeah,
the service,
dude.
the hospitality.
You remind me so much of my brother. It's crazy. Like I like even just yeah, in a lot of ways, like my older brother who lives in Thailand. You know, even though you're
Nice.
younger, but you're wise for your years. And yeah, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep this going,
Oh, dude.
and yeah, we'll just keep getting better at this, and
Yeah, man.
just keep giving our value and sharing our message to the world, and upgrading our
Absolutely,
ninja
man.
skills and learning from
That's
each
what it's
other
all
and
about, man. Yeah.
networking the
And to
swag.
anybody watching as well, I hope this was valuable to you. I hope this was, change your perspective or give you some insight or give you like a golden nugget, right? A golden nugget to take away from. I hope there was something in this. I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
And
Comment if
yeah,
you have any questions because I feel like we just went for 2 hours and 25 minutes. That was amazing. Yeah, so if there's
yeah,
any like questions or
specific topics or
comments,
anything as well.
topics, I know we
Yeah,
dropped a lot. So that would be
yeah.
cool.
Anything to go deeper on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any
keep it
personal
fueling
things
us.
that you could relate to, that
Hmm.
you want to share and get our feedback on, we can make TikToks about it.
I love it. I love it.
Right? It's like,
Awesome,
oh,
dude.
cool, bro.
Awesome, dude.
Appreciate you, bro.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, brother.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna head into my day. It's just hitting 10 o'clock here, 10 a.m. So
Nice. Let's go.
I'll chat to you soon, my man.
Awesome. Sounds great, brother. Sounds great. Make it a great day, man. I'll see you soon.
Peace.
Later.
Take care.